Are we live yet?
I wish.
Oh no, that was
I
great.
pressed the button right now. I missed all of that amazing comedic gold that you just
I
unleashed upon
know.
the world.
Sorry.
So sad. It's so sad. Hey now, everybody. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, we're gonna read
What's
some
up?
super chats.
We're
What's
gonna read some
up?
super chats. We're gonna talk to Kirk Wilcox later about libertarianism because you guys are always complaining. You're like, Sitch, Adam. You don't understand libertarians. You don't understand conservatives. You need to talk to an actual libertarian. And we're like, okay.
Sure.
We will do that.
I like Kirk. Kirk
Right.
is great. Yeah, good content creator. I watch a lot of his videos. So
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow we're gonna have Dev on, and we're
yeah,
gonna talk, I think, pretty extensively about the rings of power.
yeah, the rings of the powerless.
Yes. Oh my God. The internet has decided
Yeah.
that not only do they not like the rings of power, but that they want to go to Amazon headquarters with pitchforks and torches and destroy it.
Hmm.
Destroy Amazon Prime. That's how much this show is disliked.
Wait, Kirk Wilcox in the chat says he's not a libertarian. What?
Oh, okay.
But Kirk is not a libertarian? What?
Well, what are we talking to Kirk about then?
Oh, I guess we'll have to
Kirk, what are we
change.
talking to you about?
Kirk, let us know what we should change that title to. What the?
Wait,
Okay.
what? Do you want just give Kirk the link now if he's already in the chat?
Sure. Yeah, I'll send him the link.
All right. Kirk, what is this a mistake? What's happening here?
I feel like we should read some super chats though, because we have a
We
bunch of
can
super chats to read
we
in.
can we can read them after we talk to Kirk.
Sure. We might have
Doesn't
to read
matter.
some of them tomorrow, guys. Just
Nah, we'll
FYI.
get listen. Well, unless so this stream's only gonna be 2 to 3 hours long.
Hmm.
So unless Kirk is going to just regale us with
Yeah.
tales for 3 hours, I think we'll be okay.
Sandbag us.
Right. Is Liana Kersner who I think it is? People in the chat are recommending. Liana's weird. She has like some, I don't know. She's all over the place. Like, cause I follow her on Twitter.
Hmm.
And she has some very anti-woke correct takes, but then she has some like very woke garbage takes that are shocking.
Right.
I think she was like, I'm trying to remember. I have to check my tweets. She was like really anti Jordan Peterson or something, and I was like, what's happening here, Liana?
Yeah, I did a little digging on Olivia Wilde.
Oh yes, do you want to tell everyone that?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I'm starting to think what Olivia Wilde did by throwing Jordan Peterson on the bus was very calculated just to get eyes on her movie, which I
Well,
would categorize her movie as kind of being aimed at man haters, like people who just
why don't you tell
generally.
everyone what she said? Because I don't know if we talked about it yet.
Okay, Olivia Wilde came out and said the villain in her upcoming movie is is based on Jordan Peterson. So,
Yes, this is a movie. It looks
mhm,
kind of like Stepford Wives meets, I don't know, some kind of cult in the desert somewhere. It looks like they're all dressed in like it's the 1950s or 1960s. There's a bunch of men who are trying to control the Wymans, tell
mhm,
the Wymans that they have to be in the kitchens and not
mhm,
work jobs. And of
mhm,
course, our strong, independent female protagonist is like, I want to be independent and I want to have thoughts. And Chris Pine, who's this
mhm.
cult leader, is like, no, you can't have independent thoughts because women are bad and men are good.
Right.
Okay.
The,
So,
the the name of the movie is Don't Worry, Darling.
yes, right.
Right.
Like, don't worry, darling. Just stay in the kitchen, pat
Yeah,
on the head. Don't think
exactly.
thoughts.
So she's a I don't know if she's the writer. She's definitely the director of it. And she
Yeah.
originally had Shia LaBeouf on the movie, and Shia LaBeouf ended up having maybe a personality conflict with the star. It's we're unsure exactly if that's the case, but evidently
Hmm.
Shia LaBeouf left on his own terms. He wasn't fired, and Olivia tried to drum up press for the movie by saying Shia LaBeouf was fired from the movie for being hard to work with. And Shia LaBeouf basically posted a video of Olivia Wilde begging him to stay on the project, which kind of makes Olivia Wilde look like, okay, she's lying, obviously. Like, she can't be trusted. So not only that, I'm not sure if it's on this movie or what, but Olivia Wilde ended up leaving her husband and 2 kids for a guy that's in the movie. And it makes it seem like that might be a reason why she doesn't necessarily like Jordan Peterson, right? She's like, doesn't have her house in order in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I mean, we don't know why they well, she was married to Jason
Sudeikis, yeah.
Sudeikis, yes.
Yeah.
We don't know why they got divorced, so.
Well, I mean, it seems as though they got divorced because she was hooking up with Harry Styles, and HarryStyles is like 10 years younger than her.
Wait, is that actually?
Yeah, she's
true?
she's dating Harry Styles.
No, I know
now.
she's dating Harry Styles now, but what I'm asking you is it known that she was cheating?
Yes, it pretty much is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she left her husband and 2 kids for this guy who's obvious, like they're showing press junket interviews with him, and he's obviously like a total brainlet. So she left her husband and 2 kids for this brainlet that's 10 years younger than her. And she's calling out Jordan Peterson as the fucking king of the incels, right? It seems like she's targeted Jordan Peterson to drum up business for her movie. Like, she might even, I'm to the point where I'm thinking, maybe she does know there's nothing wrong with Jordan Peterson. She's just lying, because she's lying so much to everyone about everything.
Is she? I don't know. Is she lying, or is she just an idiot? Like, I'm more inclined to believe she's a moron who has literally never seen or read anything Jordan Peterson's ever created, and just reads these articles that paint him as like some kind of incel, manosphere, Nazi. And then, she kind of constructs this image in her mind about it, and then she writes a character based on this false construction.
Well, she definitely read the New York Times article that accuses Jordan Peterson of wanting enforced monogamy.
Yeah.
For, I don't know if she targeted incels directly in the article. It's been so long since I read that article, but so yeah, I'm thinking that could be the source of it. That's where, the telephone begins for calling Jordan Peterson the king of the incels. He wants enforced monogamy for men who need to get their shit together.
So there's an actress named Florence Pugh who was in this movie.
Yeah. The
Don't Worry Darling movie. She told Page 6, which I believe, isn't that like a UK rag or something?
Right.
Some kind of rag. She told some kind of gossip magazine. She says, I can tell you the fact that seeing Olivia and Harry all over each other on set did not go down well, as Olivia was still with Jason when she first hooked up with Harry. Wow. So you're right. Presumably. Yeah. Rumor is you were right. Yes.
No, of course. I looked into come on. I did my research. Investigator Adam was on the case. So Jason Sudeikis also, I guess, served Olivia with court papers during Comic-Con or something, like while she was on stage.
She's on stage talking about some movie, I guess, that she made.
Right.
And she gets served court papers regarding, what's it called? Custody over their children.
Right.
Because she wants to move to London or something, which obviously is going to make it very difficult to have shared custody.
So Jason's basically, he's like, I want the kids, and I'm going to serve you in the middle of that is like the ultimate Chad move, is it not? That's what you do to your ex-wife when she leaves you for some brainlet that's 10 years younger than her.
Listen, I don't know why you're upset. Olivia is just literally doing the man's thing, okay? She's leaving her family for a younger man. That's what the man is supposed to do, right? Leave his family for a younger woman. She's just fighting the patriarchy by becoming the patriarchy.
I don't think Jordan Peterson would condone this.
No, you don't think he would?
No,
Okay.
I don't. But it is. I mean, come on. We're in some very strange territory here with all this stuff. It's funny
Right.
that Jordan Peterson's name got brought up though, because this is definitely, this is a Hollywood story, right?
Yes. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, this is the behavior of Hollywood.
Oh, this is a bunch of Hollywood
stars.
actors acting
Yeah.
like, high school children. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Sure. No, but so.
I
But
mean, we're in Amber Heard territory
Right.
here. Let's be honest.
I don't think Jordan Peterson has ever. I don't think he responded yet to this, which is kind of shocking.
I saw his daughter responded. So.
Oh, that's right. No, she asked.
saw
Didn't
she
she ask
did
him
a
a
video.
question about
No,
it? I
no.
didn't hear what he said.
I
No? She just
saw
responded.
I
Okay.
saw she made a video reading a bunch of articles. So
Right.
I don't know if she dived into Olivia Wilde's situation or anything, which I think is the most interesting part of the story. But
Oh wait, no, he did
Oh,
respond.
shit.
Jordan Peterson recently reacted to Olivia Wilde's comments about Chris Pine's sinister character in her forthcoming movie "Don't Worry, Darling," saying that's based on Peterson. Wilde told Interview magazine that Pine's character was based on this insane man, Jordan Peterson, who is the pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community.
yeah,
You know,
crazy, huh?
well, let me finish before I get into what I was going to say. The actress director elaborated on incels, saying that it's a community of disenfranchised, mostly white men who believe they're entitled to sex from women. This is the whole thing about the incels disgusts me to no end,
Mm-hmm.
because we're supposed to be like, it shows the hypocrisy, like how fucking hypocritical wokeness and the mainstream culture is, because you literally have biologically the most disenfranchised group of people in existence, who are incels, right? Is that
Yeah.
not the most disenfranchised group of people from a biological perspective?
Of course, they're
And
involuntarily celibate.
right, and yet, like, because they're quote unquote white men, everyone's allowed to just mock and make fun of them. And to me, that shows that all this talk of empathy and sympathy is all lies. It's all disgusting bullshit lies. There's no empathy. There's no sympathy from any of these fucking people. They're just looking for. They just want someone that they can punch down on and beat up on and feel good about. It's like they're still acting like the fucking high school kids. Like, look at the nerdy loser who can't get sex. Oh, he's so entitled to think he wants to have sex. You're like, what? It's just such a weird fucking thing.
Kurt, I see you're on. I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you. There's a button in the bottom left corner of Zoom that you can click on and select different devices. So obviously select your microphone and headphones and whatever. So yeah,
Well,
I mean,
well, anyway, let me finish. So,
yeah, go ahead.
So Jordan Peterson responded by saying, now Chris Pine has a reputation as quite an attractive man, so that could be worse. I hope that Chris Pine at least does the sartorial splendor of my very formal public wardrobe justice as he pillories me in the latest bit of propaganda disseminated by the woke, self-righteous bores and bullies who now dominate Hollywood and who insist that production that and who insist that the production of such tripe. So there you go. Anyway, how you doing, Kirk?
Fantastic. Sorry if I was messing up the audio. I think I figured it out.
You did.
You guys can hear me,
I
right?
hear you. Yes.
All right,
Can
good.
hear you great. Well, you got anything to say about Jordan Peterson being called out by home wrecker extraordinaire Olivia Wilde?
I heard you guys talking about it. Was in the green room. I have not heard much about this story. No. I'm kind of in the camp of I'm not really a big fan of Jordan Peterson, but I think a lot of the smears against him are pretty ridiculous. So have that nuanced take on him. Sounds like this is another case of Olivia Wilde. Someone inaccurately smearing him.
Yeah, it's so weird because even if people don't like him, he's like the most smeared strawman person on the planet. And I don't know why. It's so bizarre. But
Yeah.
anyway, so what should we call you? You're not a libertarian, Kirk. What are we talking to you
Yeah,
about?
why-
What should we call you? What's
why-
happening here?
Why aren't you a libertarian?
Well, I consider myself a radical for laissez-faire capitalism, and I am a student of objectivism. I know libertarians and objectivists often get like lumped in with each other. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Because a lot of libertarians claim to be for free markets. A lot of them call themselves anarcho-capitalists. I don't think you can have capitalism or free markets without a government, without a state, without a monopoly, without a monopoly on the retaliatory use of force. So I think that's one of the big differences between libertarians and objectivists. I think another noticeable one is objectivism is a fully integrated philosophy that deals with all 5 branches, whereas libertarianism mainly deals with politics. So there's a lot of difference. There's even a lot of difference on political issues, but yeah.
So you're an objectivist.
Yes.
I'm unclear. Do you think we should have a state?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I think government is a necessary good.
Well, every time I say, libertarians are for privatizing everything, people come at me and say, no, Adam, they don't. Like, libertarians believe that you need a state.
Well, no, a lot of libertarians are anarchists, and they think that you can like privatize police and law enforcement. They think you can have a marketplace in force, but a marketplace in force is war. So
yeah. So we believe in the monopoly of violence given to the state, that kind of setup.
Yeah.
Is it Rousseau or Hobbes? I think it's Hobbes.
Well, especially when you consider the system that we have now in the United States, you do have a healthy system of checks and balances, and you have a lot of people would say we have competing states in the United States with 50 different states who then have a bunch of competing local governments within them. So there is even a little bit of competition within our federalist system where the federal government kind of reigns supreme and has certain rights that are explicitly protected, where states cannot violate your free speech or your Second Amendment rights and whatnot. So
that's a good thing, right?
I think so, yeah.
So how do you bill your channel then? What do you tell people?
I mean, my channel is mostly focused on satire, political and cultural satire. And yeah, I make fun of ideas and people I disagree with that I think are worthy of contempt. And yeah, I promote pro-individualism, pro-reason, pro-science, atheism. Not atheism in a vacuum. I think a lot of atheists, they just reject God and then they pick up a bunch of other stuff that a lot of modern religion preaches, notably altruism and,
Yeah, no,
But politically, I would say, yeah, I want free markets. I want government restrained to its proper role, which would be the protection of individual rights and property rights.
Right. Yeah,
Police,
we're very pro markets, pro free, pro capitalism on the show, anti-socialism, that kind of stuff. But obviously, yeah. I think Sitch and I both are in favor of some kind of universal health care, like a public option, basically the government competing against the private industry to get everyone insured.
Well, I do think the American healthcare system does suck in a lot of ways. And I think the reason why the American healthcare system sucks is because of too much government intervention. This is a topic that I've talked about a lot over the years. We're talking about the FDA. Mm-hmm. The FDA does limit a lot of competition in the market. And I think it has grown over the last century. Kind of started off as somewhat of a pretty reasonable role in blocking adulterated drugs and making sure there was no fraudulent drugs and medicines coming to the market. But it has since grown in scope to, have efficacy standards, which makes it very costly and difficult to get new drugs into the market. It has blocked a lot of drugs for a variety of stupid reasons. There have been a lot of regulations that came about in the 80s that incentivized drug companies to essentially focus on what are called orphan drugs, orphan diseases, that diseases that affect a small amount of people. And so a lot of the research went into that, which you could say had some good outcomes. A lot of drugs got developed for people who have a disease that maybe wouldn't have been marketable, but as a result, they also got a monopoly on those patents for a few years, which I'm not against patents, but I don't know. It's a roundabout way of saying that the healthcare system in the United States is really screwed up. You also have a lot of price controls, just a lot of government intervention in medicine that screws things up.
But you're not against government regulation, right?
If it's focused on protecting individual rights, no, I'm not against it.
Okay, so that's good. Because when I argue with people online, a lot of times they can't seem to separate, like they're just against any regulation. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like there's a regulation that came out recently that said hospitals are forced to disclose prices for various procedures. Where before, they'd hide the price. They'd say, do your operation and we'll tell you, we'll negotiate with your insurance company what you're going to pay. Which, how is that a free market system? That doesn't seem like a free market system at all.
Well, we don't have a free market system here in the United States. The pricing mechanisms are completely screwed up.
Totally.
Especially with, Biden's talking about putting caps on insulin prices. And when I looked into this, it was partly due to FDA regulations blocking competition, some insulins which have been available in Europe for years. But also there's this thing called the Medicaid drug rebate program, which essentially was imposed in the 90s in the name of reducing the burden for taxpayers. But it put a price floor on drug companies. And so now it's impossible for drug companies to compete by lowering prices. So now what they do instead, and this was worsened by the Affordable Care Act, is now they just jack up prices and then try to offer rebates to various third-party players, namely Medicaid, various insurance companies. And that price, the thing is that price doesn't get passed on to the consumer, essentially. The consumer still has to pay out-of-pocket costs, and they don't get those rebates at the end of the day like the insurance companies and Medicaid do.
So private payers are actually ended up paying more than the insurance companies, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. At the end of the day, yes, because when you pay out of pocket for the insulin, you're paying the sticker price. The insurance company might pick up a big load of that, but months later, they're going to get a rebate check from the pharmaceutical companies or the pharmacy benefit managers, which is a whole other cottage industry that grew as a result of this.
Yeah. That sounds awful, obviously. So
yeah, if you look into it, like you see that like in these horror stories about how insulin is priced at like $200-$300 a vial. The drug companies only get a small percentage of that because after they have to kick back all the rebates at the end of the day.
So when you come out and you're in favor of some kind of government regulation because you feel it's market friendly or it promotes market principles, and somebody comes along and says, "Oh, you're just a statist. You got the boot on your throat. You're sucking up to the government tit." How do you respond to those people?
I don't think I've ever really gotten that one before.
Oh, really?
I guess it depends on the regulation.
I get that all the time. It's like,
really?
Adam is a statist. He's totally in bed with the government because he wants a regulation that is going to tell him how much something's going to cost at the hospital.
Yeah, there's part of me that can't blame people for wanting more regulations because they see that the U.S. healthcare system is completely corrupt. And then you see the more socialist elements on the left say, no, we need more socialism.
No, we don't.
But then the so-called pro-capitalist side, they just pretend like everything's fine. They think the status quo is capitalism and it's perfect. And they never push back on it.
Yeah. The healthcare system is a perfect example of it. Like it's not a market-based system at all.
No.
It's two big corporations, the health providers and the health insurers, basically haggling over you, and you're just like a little peon who's their pawn on the table. Yeah, it's terrible. It's completely terrible.
Yeah, I think the mixed economy in general necessitates a situation of pressure group warfare where you have various pressure groups just lobbying the government for favors, and we don't ultimately have a free market. It's whoever has the most convincing sob story or the most money or whatever. I think even the pharmaceutical company doesn't really seem to be in favor of freeing up the market, more so gaming the system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're both gaming the system against the consumer, which is horrible. And I just
Yeah.
we're not. I mean, there a free market solution to fixing that? I'm not sure that there really is. I feel like government regulation is the only way to step in and fix it.
I mean, you would have to propose a long-term solution that phases out. I think like the regulatory aspects, like, scaling back the FDA's role to maybe just focusing on neglect and fraud. Like if there's fraud in medicine, if there's like a corporation that's putting out a drug they know has side effects and not reporting it, then absolutely go crack down on them. I'm not opposed to that. But if people want to try drugs that maybe haven't been tested, maybe they're only proven to be like 90% efficacious, but what's the alternative? We're going to make them wait 5 to 10 years and millions of dollars spent for it to come to market for some bureaucrat to rubber stamp it.
Yeah.
Isn't the you were talking about earlier, you're talking about the part of why insulin costs so much is the rebates that they basically have to pay back to the pharmacy benefit manager people. And isn't that an issue of lack of regulation that causes that problem? As opposed to government regulation causing that problem?
Well, it started with, a program like Medicaid, which promised to cover prescription drugs for low-income Americans. And then when that program started to become too expensive for taxpayers, then the solution was to put a price control on Medicaid. The problem is that Medicaid covers way too many people. And so if the pharmaceutical companies, now they have to price in a way where they're not losing significant amounts of money, and then and that they don't pass that cost on to other, because if they were to lower the price in general, then they'd have to pay back bigger rebates to the program, so then they would lose more money by lowering prices. So instead what they do is they just jack up prices and then try to negotiate with bigger rebates with different various third-party payers.
Well, okay, so I'm reading this article. I don't know anything about this. This article is claiming that basically part of the very high cost of insulin is because you have these pharmacies like CVS and these large pharmacies, and basically they charge exorbitant fees to pharmaceutical companies to have their products be in these stores for people to even buy in the first place. And that to me seems like that's a free market causing the problem, essentially, not solving the problem.
Well, no, because it started with when the government started offering to subsidize prescription drugs. And because that started becoming too much of a burden on the taxpayers by the early 90s, then they decided to put price controls on that medication. But if they did not abide by those price controls, then they would lose out on a significant market, which Medicaid covers. They don't want to lose out on that market. So then they have to price accordingly. And the only way to do that is by jacking up prices, because if they were to lower prices, then they would owe a lot more in rebates. And they would end up losing money. So
wait, who's jacking up the price? I'm confused about all the players here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very confusing thing because, you have drug companies, you have insurance companies, you have the government, you have pharmacies and whatnot.
Right. No, so wait, so you're saying that the government put price controls on the pharmaceutical companies or the pharmacies?
Pharmaceutical companies.
Okay, and so how does that translate into the pharmacies' cost, making the pharmaceutical companies charge more money for their medicine? I'm missing the connection.
Because if they decide, okay, we're not going to sell these drugs to Medicaid, they're going to lose out on a big portion of their business. And if they sell the drugs to Medicaid, but then they offer a smaller price to the private market, then the government's going to say, well, because you're offering this price a smaller price to the market, now you owe us more in rebates. So now they got to kick back more. And so what they end up doing is just jacking up prices. And the Affordable Care Act made this worse because they forced insurance companies to start covering prescription drugs, essentially. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
Sitch, what do you...
Are you following this, Adam? I still don't understand the connection here.
They have certain drugs
Sorry about that.
They've negotiated some kind of rebate. So when the insurance company pays for the drug, the sticker price is like $500, right? But they're going to get a $350 rebate. So they're just...
Yeah, the insurance companies will get they're able to Yeah.
They're getting like
Yeah,
a
so the
$490
government will get the
rebate.
Yeah. The government and the insurance companies and the pharmacy benefit managers, they'll all get the rebates. The consumer doesn't get the rebate, though. The consumer still has to pay a difference out of pocket. Now, if a consumer has good insurance, they're probably not going to be paying as much. The insurance company is going to pick up a large part of that unless they have big copays to pay, which is another issue that's caused by all this.
Okay,
You
but
got it now?
shouldn't the government? No, I still don't. Shouldn't the government just say? Shouldn't the government cap the amount that these pharmacies can charge drug manufacturers to stock their drugs? Wouldn't that be the solution?
I think the government needs to phase out of subsidizing drugs and getting rid of all these price controls that come with it. And then the pricing mechanisms in healthcare and drugs would be a lot more transparent, and then people would know exactly what they're paying. And you wouldn't have this weird, bizarre system where the drug companies are forced to pay exorbitant rebates, and they have to price high accordingly because they know they're going to get those rebates taken out of them months down the road.
Yeah, but I don't see how it would work unless people could buy drugs directly from manufacturers,
because it is
online or something, which I don't even know if you can. Doesn't insulin have to be stored or something? So I don't even know if that's feasible. But because if all the large pharmacies that everyone buys their medicine are all doing this, I don't see how simply removing the regulation is going to make that go away. Like, why would they stop doing something that's profitable for them?
That's the problem.
It's not really that profitable to them, though, if they're kicking back all of this money in rebates.
No, they're kicking the rebate money is going to the pharmacies, not the pharmaceutical companies, right?
It's going to insurance companies, the government, and the pharmacies.
Yes, right. So what I'm saying is that the pharmacies, what I'm saying is the pharmacies have no incentive to stop this system because they're making lots of money from this system, right? So you basically have to have a situation where consumers say, we're not going to put up with this. But I'm saying, how are consumers going to not put up with it if there's no alternative to buying drugs?
I think you would see a lot more competition, as you would see with most things where you do see freer markets, where you do see businesses competing with each other by lowering prices to consumers to compete over dollars.
I'm skeptical.
Okay.
What is the purpose of the rebate
in my room.
system?
What the fuck?
The rebate system is basically to incentivize drug manufacturers to create drugs that they would actually lose money on. Is that the purpose of the rebate?
No, the purpose of the rebate initially was to save taxpayers money on prescription drugs, because taxpayers were paying for a lot of prescription drugs through Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the early 90s, to reduce the burden on taxpayers, they imposed price controls on prescription drug companies to the point where it's like, okay, we're good. And if you look at, they usually, I think the Medicaid usually gets over 60%, depending on the year. They usually get over 60% of the money back that they spend on prescription drugs. Mm-hmm. And if they lower their prices, then they would be on the hook for a bigger rebate that they would have to pay the government. And if they were to lower that price on the private market, then the government's, because I think it's the difference between, like, it's either a fixed rate or it's the difference between like the average price on the market and the lowest price on the market. I forget the details and it's very complicated. But if they were to lower their price, then they would be responsible for a bigger rebate kicked back to the government.
Okay.
And this all started because
is the cricket dead? How dare you?
No, I just took it outside. Why would I kill it? This is a cricket.
Anyway,
sorry about that.
You want to talk? What is your take on MMT?
By the way, I did a whole video explaining this. I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job explaining, but I have a video that I put up back in March called "How the Federal Government Saved Americans from Affordable Insulin," where I break it all down. I show all the receipts. I bring in a lot of reports from the American Diabetes Association, the Mayo Clinic, House reports on this stuff. So House of Representative reports on this stuff. So if anyone wants more on that, they can check out my YouTube channel.
I put the link to Kirk's YouTube in the description.
Did you? I'm going to drop it in the chat right now. I watch a bunch of your videos, Kirk. I really like your channel. So
Thanks. It's weird because I've known about both of you guys for years, even before you guys teamed up and started doing your own show. I remember finding out about Sitch. I was browsing Reddit one night. People were talking about the G word.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Gamergate.
Yes.
Yes.
People were talking about Gamergate, and someone's like, explain Gamergate. And someone dropped PSA Sitch's video, and I was like, oh wow, that's a good. I like this guy's stuff, and I became a subscriber. And then I found out about Adam after you, I think Rucka Ali and you were talking about objectivism. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He was calling me out for objectivism.
Yeah.
Which I don't. I mean, objectivism. I don't think is morality. I think like it's the opposite of morality. Morality is about selflessness, and objectivism is about selfishness.
I think you're making a package deal out of morality and altruism. You're assuming that altruism is the moral standard that everyone should live by.
Well, society needs altruists to exist. So I do think...
Well, what do you think altruism is?
Sacrificing your well-being for the good of society.
Sacrificing for the less fortunate, the good of society, the good of the collective.
Yeah.
Now, when you play that out on how do you think that manifests itself politically when it's embraced to its extreme radical form?
Communism.
Well,
obviously.
You can't get it down to nothing, though. You can't build a society where nobody is willing to sacrifice for the greater good, as they say, right?
The greater good.
I mean,
yeah, but how much amount of sacrifice is necessary, do you think?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a big question. That's the thing, and it's got to be voluntary too. So
why wouldn't it be in someone's self-interest to want a better society? Wouldn't a rational, self-interested person see, maybe contributing to society as maybe an investment or goodwill or benevolence because they want to see the best in people? They want to see people rise up.
Well, there's two problems. The first is you said, wouldn't a rational person,
right?
Rationally self-interested.
Asking a lot.
I guess we should start back. So existence exists. Reality is what it is. And people are rational. Human beings are the rational animal. We have the capability to reason and think conceptually. Whether or not people do it is another question. But you only get one life in this universe. And so how should you... What should you do with your life? How should you live your life? How should you make the decisions? Should you orient your life around trying to live the best, happiest life possible, or should you be looking for crosses to die on for the sake of your fellow man?
Well, first of all, you don't just live one life, Kirk. There's a book. I don't know if you've heard about it. Talks about your actual immortal life. Okay.
Yeah. You should check it out.
But to answer your question seriously, well, I don't think it's not a simple binary solution of, you do whatever you want or you put yourself on the cross. But part of what I do like about Jordan Peterson is that I think if you just go out there and live the hedonistic lifestyle, I don't think you will be happy.
I don't think hedonism is the answer either. I think hedonism is mostly short-term gratification. I don't think that's the same as happiness.
No, I agree completely. And I think a lot of long-term happiness or contentment with your life is to take responsibilities such as to have a family and a job and help society in some fashion, blah 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 blah.
That requires your life is your level of selflessness,
right? So. Of course. But I guess part of the issue with the broader issue with what we're talking about is that lots of people, A, don't realize that, B, even if they do realize that, will still go for the short-term pleasure seeking, and C, there's always going to be lots of free riders that are looking to game the system. And that's kind of why we need all these rules and regulations to, keep the free riders down and to keep the corruption down as much as possible.
I mean, there's a lot there, but again, We're talking about, when I talk about selfishness, I mean about really long-term thinking and trying to think about what's the best way. What if I'm going to live a life, I got to make decisions and I got to orient my values around living the longest, best, happiest life possible. And I think that's what morality is to me, is pursuing values and making decisions that are life affirming and pursuing happiness, pursuing values.
Well, I mean, that's morality. I mean, that could be a way in which you decide to live your life. I don't know. I wouldn't describe that as morality.
And that doesn't mean just, screw everyone else.
I understand.
Living life, you obviously want to have friendships. You want to surround yourself with people you love. You want to see people you care about do very well and flourish. I mean, it's not in your best interest to see people you love just, struggle. But I also don't think that, in a free society, if people were mostly rationally self-interested and pro-reason, I don't think you would see very much struggling or suffering at all if people were focused on living the best life possible.
Right, but I think it's just like a definitional argument, because me and Adam generally define morality purely as how you or how an individual interacts with a group, that there is no such thing as like individual morality. That morality necessitates group interaction. And where your definition means like someone could be living alone on an island and they're still trying to live their best life. They're still trying to carve out a morality for themselves.
Well, I don't think living alone on an island would be optimal, but
but if you're
for me, morality is about what's the right way to live, what's the right thing to do. And I think it should be oriented, if you're going to choose life and living, you should orient your morality around making decisions that are life affirming. And
of course.
All right.
Well, but there's always the issue, because there's always some amount of life affirmingness for you that you can carve out and away from other people. Right?
Wait a minute. Say that again.
There's always some level of life affirming decisions or things that will help you in life that would require you to harm or take them away from other people.
I don't agree with that. I see what you're saying, and I see a lot of people get like, what if I could steal $5 million from Bill Gates and get away with it and he wouldn't notice? I don't think that would make you happy long term. I don't think that would be good for you long term, because you would, at the end of the day, know that $5 million came from deception. It didn't come from your own productive ability. It didn't come from your own ability to trade with others for win-win transactions. You would know that the only reason why you have a lot of money is because you had to partially destroy someone else, whether or not they notice it or not, like it's a Bill Gates. That's ultimately how you achieve that.
Well, I mean, I think you're sort of right. I mean, I would agree that most people would have that sense, but even the people that would have that sense, I mean, they would still do it. They still rationalize it at the time. Maybe they'll feel bad about it later, but they're still going to engage in the behavior.
I mean, they might, and I think this is where the power of ideas. I think this is mostly more of a philosophical revolution or a philosophical movement than a political thing. And you even see this, I don't know if you guys watch Better Call Saul, but this is a big theme of Better Call Saul, where Saul Goodman he's always looking for shortcuts, and he doesn't care if he destroys people as long as he gets a bigger payday. And it ends up making him very miserable, even though he has many opportunities to flourish in a more honest way, and then ends up catching up with him.
Yeah, but why does he keep choosing to not go in that route?
Because his whole perspective on life is that the world is full of wolves and sheep, and that the only way to get ahead is by destroying others and taking it from others. Yeah.
No, but
I don't think that's the right way to think about the world, though.
No, you're correct. That is a horrible way to think about the world, and not the right way. But the problem is that is the way a lot of people do look at the world, and we'd have to have a society that kind of deals with that.
Yeah, I think that's where politics comes in. You talk about how to organize society. And I think when talking about organizing society, it should be focused around individual rights. And if people are engaging in fraud and deception and destroying others for monetary gain or whatever, then there should be consequences.
I don't know this show, Better Call Saul.
You don't?
I haven't seen it. No, I just looked it up.
Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I've seen Breaking Bad.
It's a spinoff of Breaking Bad.
Okay.
It's Saul Goodman. It's all about him.
But his moral philosophy is fuck people over before they fuck you over. Basically, it's an objectivist philosophy.
No, that's not an objectivist philosophy.
Okay. What is objectivism?
It's the philosophy of Ayn Rand. It's a fully integrated philosophy that deals with metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, politics, and aesthetics. And yeah, it starts with metaphysics. Existence exists. A is A. There's only one universe here. And then you get epistemology, which deals with knowledge and thinking. And
what is the epistemology of? I don't even know. Objectivism. How do they come to knowledge?
You gain knowledge by using perception, and you conceptualize by abstraction and forming concepts, and categorizing knowledge by forming concepts. And then you use reason, logic to learn more about the world. You use science to learn more about the world and about the universe. And then you use that knowledge to live the best life possible here on Earth in this reality. So
it's a scientifically based epistemology, empiricistic. Yes. It looks at the natural world and experiments.
I'm not sure if I would call it empiricist, but yeah, it's definitely a pro-science philosophy in that, we should use our perception to, again, use our senses to observe reality, use our tool of thinking, our brains to think about the world, to think conceptually, to categorize knowledge, and then use logic to make decisions about life.
Empiricism is just looking at evidence. So sounds like it is empirical.
Sorry, I had a text message I had to take care of. You're asking what the definition of objectivism is?
Yeah, he was explaining that, it has like, I guess, 6 different elements. How many elements did you?
It's trying. Ayn Rand was trying to create an objective moral system, right? So I assume that's why it's called objectivist.
I think, from what I've heard, I think she was going to call it rationalism, but rationalism already meant something. So then she chose objectivism. I think I might be mistaken on those details, but yeah, you start with metaphysics and epistemology, and from that you get ethics, and then from ethics you get politics and aesthetics, art.
Right.
Leonard Peikoff, there's a 45-minute video of Leonard Peikoff. So I think it's called Intro to Objectivism, where he breaks everything down.
I'm so biased against objectivism, not because I know anything about objectivism, but just because I think I hate Ayn Rand and everything I read about her is terrible. Can we separate the two things from each other, or they're so intertwined?
What do you mean by that? I want to be clear. I think a lot of people think of objectivism as like every opinion and thought Ayn Rand ever had and everything she ever did. And no, it's a integrated philosophy that deals with living life, essentially.
Right.
And being, just because you're objective about something doesn't mean that you're always right.
Sure. Okay.
Sometimes the application might be mistaken based on, so.
That's what I'm asking. Cause in my mind, Ayn Rand is basically the, fuck everyone else, sense of morality. Everyone should be self-interested. She really was, I forget, she was really into the serial killer guy because he had no sense of morality. Like, she just seems like she wasn't fucking bad person.
I don't think she was into the serial killer guy. I think she said that she found his way of thinking about things interesting, but she didn't him.
It was beyond that. She was like, this guy is like the Ubermensch. He is like the way in which, he's like the ultimate man because he doesn't have empathy or whatever the fuck was wrong with his brain.
No, I don't remember much about this, but I remember I did a stream with one of my objectivist friends back in October, and he really went into it, because he knew more about this topic than I did. And it's when we were reacting to a video about South Park, about whether or not Cartman was a manifestation of Ayn Rand's philosophy, which I think is just ridiculous. But
was this a wisecrack video?
Yes, it was.
I could guess from that.
That was, I couldn't remember the YouTube channel at first.
Yeah, it's funny.
But yeah, my buddy brought up, he's like, look, I'm a fan of Chris Benoit's, wrestling. He was one hell of a wrestler, but he also murdered his family. You wouldn't then say, oh, I liked his wrestling, therefore I was in favor of murdering his family.
Sure. No, obviously.
Yeah.
So it says the guy that we're talking about is a guy named William Edward Hickman. Rand said, other people do not exist for him. He does not see why they should. He had no regard whatsoever for all that society holds sacred, and with a consciousness all of his own, he has the true innate psychology of a Superman. He can never realize and feel other people. Now, I mean, that's just a quote out of context, but it sounds fucking bad for that.
Ayn Rand also, I guess she welcomed people who were victims of the Japanese internment into her home while they were trying to get back on their feet. So again, this notion that she was just like, screw everyone else, I think is a myth.
Okay.
Did she make them like clean the house and stuff, do the dishes, and
I think that was
like
part of the deal, but no, the person that she welcomed to her house was very thankful that Ayn Rand helped her out when she was desperate.
I'm very skeptical.
What was the sex like?
What do you mean?
For the lodger.
Huh?
Did she enjoy it?
I think I missed something.
Sex.
I just heard you say something about cleaning toilets, and I think, what?
Kirk, you're a comedian. Come on here. These jokes are solid.
No, I think I didn't hear it when you said it, and now I don't think I heard I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Ayn Rand obviously used these poor Japanese people. She enslaved them in her sex dungeon.
For her sexual pleasure.
For her sexual degeneracy, which she was well known for.
No, I find this amusing because a lot of today's liberals, they'll glorify FDR and look past the fact that he interned a bunch of Japanese Americans. Then they'll demonize Ayn Rand when Ayn Rand welcomed Japanese Americans into her home that were victims of the internment camps. There you go.
She was a true saint.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Ayn Rand, so I have a very different way of looking at morality. Like Sitch said, I conceptualize morality as a set of rules that binds people into a cooperative group, and in order to make any sort of cooperative group thrive over time, you definitely need at least some portion of people who are selfless people who are willing to do things other people are not necessarily going to do. Like, we're lucky we live in a society where all of those jobs tend to be voluntary. So it makes it better. Obviously, you don't want people, the guy who jumps on the grenade and saves his platoon, you'd like to think he did it voluntarily and he wasn't pushed by one of the other guys, right? So
I don't think morality can really be thought of in foxhole situations. If you're in the middle of a war, obviously you're not in a context of just living in a free, laissez-faire society. You have to do what is necessary to defeat the enemy as fastly and quickly as possible with the least amount of damage to your own side as possible. And I think, I don't really care to get off into this tangent, but I think a lot of the foreign policy mistakes of the United States, you could probably say since World War II, have been because of elements of altruism where we pull our punches to avoid civilian deaths. And as a result, we end up endangering soldiers, American soldiers in the battlefield.
Right. So this is a typical Ayn Rand argument that altruism ends up being...
I mean, you guys are pretty honest that altruism is a morality of sacrifice. So it's a morality for dying, not for living.
Well, that's a very interesting way to frame it.
I mean, that's why people like Jesus, because, hey, he died on a cross for the sake of saving the sinners.
But why do you think altruism evolved in humans? Why do you think
why does it exist?
Why does it? Well, I I think a lot of people have just bought into mysticism. A lot of people, I mean, you can't, when talking about altruism with religion, you can't really separate it from the mysticism and the idea that if you behave morally and follow all of God's commandments, which altruism is part of it, not part of the 10 commandments, that came more explicit with Jesus. But yeah, if you follow the, the lessons in the Bible, then in the afterlife, you'll get rewarded when you go to heaven, and you'll be treated well. And I think most organized religion is essentially a pro-death, primitive form of philosophy, because it just teaches you to follow orders. Yeah, follow orders and look forward to look forward to the afterlife. Don't think about this life.
Not Judaism.
I don't know enough about Judaism.
Oh, they don't really talk about the afterlife much in Judaism at all. But well, first of all, I mean, I completely disagree with that conception. But I guess what I was asking you is, for humans to have constructed all these religions and concepts about altruism, like that has to be based off of a natural instinct that the human animal is predisposed to. And I was asking, why do you think, what do you think that instinct is, and why do you think humans have that instinct?
Well, I think maybe in more primitive times, it probably made more sense for humans to kind of band together for the sake of survival.
Well, yeah.
But now we're in a time where, after, millennia of philosophic thought, where we can move beyond that, where we can live peacefully with one another with proper forms of philosophy, again, pro-reason, pro-living this life on earth, where we live in societies where force is removed from the realm of civilized society, where people can produce and trade with each other for win-win benefits. And I think societies that have embraced this even a little bit have been more flourishing than the ones that have embraced altruism, which is, you see, again, the logical manifestation of that is totalitarianism.
Well, I guess it's interesting to me because to me, for you to define altruism as death, obviously extreme, I'd say anything extreme is going to lead to death. Extreme altruism, extreme selfishness, extreme anything is going to lead to bad outcomes. But to label altruism as intrinsically being death, to me, is backwards, because the reason that I would argue that human animals and any animal has any altruistic behavior is because they evolved to have that behavior, because that's the only thing that makes them raise their kids. Because that's what raising your kids are. It's sacrificing your own well-being, your own time,
Why
and
would
energy
it be in your
for
self-interest
some other animal that's not you?
Well, I would reject that, because I think what makes humans flourishing is reason, rational thought, thinking.
I don't disagree with any of that. Right.
Okay. Well,
no, but I'm just saying that this is, I agree that that's what makes humans flourish, is being intelligent. I'm just saying that altruism doesn't come from death. It comes from literally propagating life and continuing life.
Yeah, I mean, altruism may sound good in a void where people are not civilized and before, pre philosophy and whatnot. What word am I looking for? Like prehistoric times. It might make sense for human beings to naturally band together, if the alternative is just a void. But I think human beings are much better off if we do live in a civilized society where force is removed. And when it comes to the issue of raising kids, I do think if you're going to choose to have kids, it is in your best interest to raise them and try to make the best decisions for your own survival and your kids' survival.
Yeah, well, let me channel.
I don't see raising kids as a sacrifice, I should say.
Well, but it is. What do you mean? Of course it is.
Why would it be a sacrifice to want to see your kids do well?
Why should you care? It's some other animal that's not you. Why are you sacrificing?
I mean, if you don't care, why would you have kids?
Because biologically,
to work on the farm.
we have chemicals that are wired in our brain to trick us into making us feel good about raising children.
I don't have kids. I've chosen not to have kids.
I don't have kids either.
Why did you choose not to have kids?
I'm just not interested in raising kids.
It's too much work, right?
It's a lot of
sacrifice.
Work. I know a lot of people who have kids and it's working out great for them. They probably have higher levels of satisfaction than I do, because I do think raising kids is a very serious task. It's a lot of hard work. And if you do it successfully, it can be very rewarding spiritually and mentally, and they're going to have experiences that I'll never know. So yeah, there are a lot of benefits to raising kids, but I'm not sure I'd be good at it.
Sure. No, but it's funny because like I could channel Sargon if you were to enter this conversation, because he'd have so much a problem with what you were saying about logic and reason, because he would say that the reason the birth rates are declining so much is because people are focused on logic and reason in themselves, as opposed to altruism and duty and, you know, biological necessity and all this other stuff.
Is that the right reason to have kids, is for the sake of society? Shouldn't
what do you
want
mean
to
right?
have kids be what?
What do you mean by right? The right reason? What is the right?
I mean, if you're going to have kids, shouldn't you do it because it's going to enhance your life and because you want to have a family? Because as I said, there are a lot of benefits to having a family. I do think it's very rewarding. You're going to have people that, you know, if you do it the right way, I know a lot of people raise families the wrong way and then it doesn't work out.
Of course.
But yeah, if you're going to have a family, shouldn't you do it because you are ultimately going to get a benefit out of it at the end of the day? It is in your long-term self-interest, rather than, well, society needs you to pop out some kids, or the
somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
somebody's got to do
people
that.
People will always do it.
Well,
having kids isn't for everybody, but it's for a lot of people. So
I would argue two things. I'd argue one, I think most people, not everyone, most people generate or acquire more benefit from having kids, assuming, you know, they don't have kids too young, they have stable finances and all these other things are taken care of. I think most people accrue much more benefit from having kids than not having kids, because we're kind of biologically wired to feel that way when we have children. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, I don't know if it is more, see, this is we have completely different definitions of morality. I don't know if it is moral or right to say, should I do something for society, like continue it, even if it hurts me to some extent? And I feel like that's kind of where your philosophy could lead to in a more like extreme hyperbolic version of itself.
Well, I think people would definitely have different values and priorities, but I think even in a free society where people are rationally self-interested, I mean, a lot of objectivists have kids, so I don't think it would necessarily mean that everyone would just say, oh, I'm not going to have kids. I'm just going to, you know, a lot of people will have kids.
No, sure, but I wonder if everyone's acting according to rational self-interest. I would assume that there'd be far less children.
There might be.
But part of the problem is if there's far less children, there's far less investment to keep society going. Until we all become immortal, then this conversation won't matter anymore.
I mean, it's also possible that people would be living a lot longer lives. Science would develop a lot faster. Medical technology would develop a lot faster. People would eat a lot better. People wouldn't
if there were no kids?
No, if people were rationally self-interested.
Oh, yeah, but they're not, obviously. So this doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, and for people who, you know, maybe are eating themselves or smoking themselves or drinking themselves into an early grave, I would ask, is this in your best interest? Is this what you want out of life? Do you want to be dead by 45 because you're eating nothing but cheeseburgers and drinking 40s after you're done eating dinner?
Sure, but the issue with that is, I mean, it's not really a question of rational self-interest. It's a question of, can you, or I would argue, are you really born with the ability to override the biochemical addiction chemicals in your brain that occurs when you smoke cigarettes or you eat the big cheeseburger or do all these unhealthy things? And I think for most people, the answer is no. They can't override that. I don't think you can I think it's insanely difficult for you to rationalize yourself out of doing these addictive behaviors.
I mean, there are obviously programs and voluntary help groups that deal with addiction. Addiction is not something that I know about firsthand. I know a lot of people who have struggled with addiction, and it's not easy. But yeah, I would. And so I don't mean to undermine your point that, yeah, overcoming addiction and the biological factors and chemicals in the brain. I know it's not an easy task for a lot of people. Right. But I would encourage people to try to avoid behaviors that might lead to that to begin with. And then if they happen to fall down that, I would try to I'd try to encourage them to try to get out of it and think about what's best for them. And a lot of people do.
Sure. That's true.
Sorry, I
Stop
feel like
talking.
every time I'm asked about something, I accidentally pivot into a tangent. But
It's okay. That's what a conversation is, right? It's pivoting on tangents. Adam is talking about cats in the chat
No,
for some reason.
yeah.
so it sounds to me
No,
like
yes.
No,
So you-
people were saying, obviously the kids things come up and people. I have this idea, Kirk, that we shouldn't be disenfranchising Americans, that every American should get a vote, even if they're a baby. So I just think the vote should go to the parents. I think the parents should be able to vote for the kids in the kid's best interest until the kid is 18. So parents, if you have 3 kids, you should get you should get 3 votes plus your vote. You get 4 votes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that
I
definitely
think-
increased birth rates.
only I should be allowed to vote. Only me.
Well,
There
you
you go.
since you don't have any kids, you get your 1 vote. But yeah, people who are working on the next generation have a bigger vested interest in the direction of society. So I don't see why they shouldn't get more political power. Why? I mean, we use the kids when they do a census. They use the kids in how many people are in the district and how many representatives you get in the House of Representatives. So they're counting the kids. The kids
Do
just don't
they?
get to vote. Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So why don't they get to vote? That just seems like un-American to me.
Because they're children. That's why.
Yeah, but they're
I guess
Americans.
maybe the solution
Look,
is to
Sitch,
not.
They're not French because they're under
Not
18. Okay,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
they're Americans.
I guess I guess don't count the kids when considering proportional representation in the House of Representatives. Obviously, it's not a problem in the Senate because it's equal representation throughout the states. But yeah, in the House of Representatives, maybe don't count the kids.
Well,
Maybe count them
especially
as
especially in school board races and stuff like that. Like, why the school board race is the perfect example of where the parents need more votes. You got 3 kids in school, like your say should matter more.
well, I think private or school should be fully privatized.
Well, I believe in school choice too. I think we need a market-based system to
Yeah.
repair the healthcare system or the education system. So we probably agree there.
Nice.
Since you
But
want
yeah, parents should totally take more responsibility and interest in their kids' education. And unfortunately, the best way to do it is, like we've been seeing over the last few years, is show up to school board meetings and then argue with the school board. And then I think a lot of progress has been made when maybe changing curriculum here and there, but it's usually to my knowledge, when dealing with public education, a lot of the change is very slow. It's very hard to do right away because you essentially have to vote in new school board members or new mayors or whatever.
Mhm.
Whereas if we had a private education system, it'd be a lot easier to immediately hold maybe corrupt administrators and educators accountable.
Yeah. Sitch, are you done talking about morality? I don't want to cut you off. You were.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Morality.
Forever. We'll never talk about morality ever again. I'm done.
Well, we
talking
talk
So-
about morality all the time, but I don't, this is the problem I
Correct
have
me if
with,
I'm wrong.
Oh, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So
You're
I
wrong.
came up with this term. All right. I came up with this term called oxygen mask morality. You know how when you're on a plane,
Put
and they
yours on
say-
first, yes.
yeah, put yours on first so that you can help others. I think that's the way you guys think about morality, and you guys probably think you need a healthy combination of both sacrifice and self-interest, because obviously we need innovation, the profit motive, science to make society flourish, but maybe a little sacrifice is necessary here and there so that society doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
I think that a good society constructs itself in a way, and I think America has done this pretty successfully. A good society constructs itself so that self-sacrifice is rewarded. So it's almost like it becomes not self-sacrifice.
Yeah,
but like
so
it's
if it's-
incentivized in some fashion.
Yeah. So if you're rewarded, is it really a sacrifice?
Well, that's the thing.
I
'Cause you have
noticed
to
this
kind
is-
of incentivize people to do it. Yeah.
Going back to Jordan Peterson reading his book 12 Rules for Life, this is how he thinks about it. He conflates sacrifice with long-term thinking and planning. Like, oh, if you work today and put money away for your retirement, he considers that a sacrifice.
Well, that's what sacrificing
totally
is.
Oh, well, I thought sacrifice was meant the way I think of, maybe we have a different idea of sacrifice. I consider sacrifice giving up a value in exchange for a lesser or no value.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Like helping someone with their oxygen mask?
I know why you think that, though, because you're looking at this from like an atheistic perspective, and he's looking at it from a religious perspective. Because when he says sacrifice, it's like, you're sacrificing your grain or a person or an animal to gain some sort of future benefit from like the universe or God or something of that nature. And so obviously now you don't believe that that actually works. People in modern society don't really believe that that works, but that's kind of what it means. Like, when you go to school, you're sacrificing your time and your enjoyment because you think you're down the road going to have a better job, to show for it.
Same with kids. Like, if you have kids, like, getting little sleep to change your baby's diaper in the middle of the night because he's crying. That's going to be very inconvenient. That's not going to be easy. But in the long run, if you raise a healthy family, that's probably going to be in your best interest. And you're going to get a lot of rewards down the road, a lot of spiritual rewards. And what I think Adam Carolla once said it best, that it's kind of like running a marathon in that, like, you don't feel good when you're running the marathon, but when you're done, it's very satisfying and rewarding to know that you're in shape to that extent and that you accomplished a feat that's very difficult to accomplish.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, that's what I would just definitionally call sacrifices, that you're giving up something for what you perceive will be better down the road in the future.
So are Wall Street bankers sacrificing by that standard?
In what way?
Well, a lot, maybe not. Well, I shouldn't say just isolate the wall. Maybe bankers in general, investors, like when you see people on Shark Tank, like they give up a bunch of money and they're giving that money to an entrepreneur on the expectation of future long-term rewards. So when you're lending money, you're giving up the ability to enjoy that money today on the expectation that you're getting a greater reward in return in the long run.
Right. I don't know. It's a good question. We have to try to like tease out what exactly is the difference between a sacrifice and an investment and how we would define these terms, right? Because classically you'd say, well, they're not sacrificing, they're investing. I don't know if that's just because we think of investing when it comes to money. We kind of think of sacrificing more in terms of like time and energy.
Well, I think a reason why bankers are some of the most hated people in societies because they're perceived as very greedy and selfish. All they care about is the long-term rewards. But if we're to think of sacrifice as, oh no, you're going to get a long-term reward and benefit out of this, then why won't we apply that same standard to bankers?
What about the people who like give up one of their kidneys to some stranger?
I think that would probably be a sacrifice if you're doing it for a relative or someone you care about. No, I think
there's a program that a lot of people opt into that they give a kidney away to somebody they don't even know because there's like such a lacking of kidneys. There's like a giant waiting list for kidneys. So they started this program where just random people decide, I'm just going to give a kidney to someone I don't even know.
I mean, I'm selfish. I'd like to have both my kidneys in case one of them fails or in case my kidneys fail. I mean, I don't know. So that's call me a greedy bastard, I guess.
So, but would the world be a better place without that program? Or according to Ayn Rand, I guess so, right? All those people are idiots.
If people, I mean, a program... I guess it depends on what you want out of life. If you think it's in your best interest to give your kidney to a stranger, but then again, that means if someone you care about needs a kidney tomorrow, maybe you find out your daughter or your friend from high school or whatever needs a kidney transplant and you're a match, but hey, it's too late. You already gave it to some stranger. So
he takes it away. So the person actually gets screwed over by doing it. That's hilarious. Well, I'm just saying, like, if there's one society that has a program that, 1,000 extra people live each year because these insane people decide I'm going to give a kidney away to someone I don't even know, and a society where everyone's like, that's idiocy. Like, I'm going to go out and steal people's kidneys and sell them on the open market. Like,
steal people's kidneys?
Yeah, there's plenty of places where they take people's kidneys. Like supposedly in China they do this. This is the whole thing with the Uyghur.
I don't think it should be legal to steal people's kidneys. So I don't know if this adds up.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the idea, like, I'm trying to present a case where one society has altruistic people and the other society doesn't have altruistic people. Like, which society is going to?
It's odd because I noticed this is a double. I'm not saying this is you, but I noticed this double standard from a lot of socialist types. Is they'll say that under capitalism and free markets, there wouldn't be any innovation in medicine because it's more profitable to just have a treatment that only works for a while. So then they'll squeeze customers, but then they'll hold up people like Jonas Salk, who created the polio vaccine and decided to give it away for free. Same with insulin. I guess the people who discovered insulin did not want a patent on it because they did not want to make a profit off of a life-saving medicine. Nikola Tesla had this mentality too. So I think even in a free society, you'd see a lot of benevolence and you'd see a lot of people who are focused on innovating and for the sake of saving lives and prolonging life.
Well, I mean, you see some of it. Like, because obviously all the people you mentioned existed in a capitalist society, but
yeah,
I think the reason we know their names is because they're the exception.
Well, even like with the recent the COVID vaccine, we had to wait 6 to 12 months. It was demonstrated as safe in May of 2020, and we had to, even with Operation Warp Speed and all the billions of dollars that went into gearing up the efficacy test. The what are they called? Can't remember. We had to wait until December for it to get rubber stamped with emergency use authorization by the FDA. So if we had a freer market in medicine, it's possible that a lot of lives would have been saved if people were not waiting for the efficacy trials to conclude.
Well, yeah, but we don't know how many variations of the vaccine failed the trials and could have been worse or damaging, they didn't, right? We don't. What do you mean? We don't know. We don't hear about the versions that didn't make it to market, did we? Only hear about the successes.
Well, I know with the Moderna vaccine, it was determined safe in May of 2020. There are a lot of articles on this. It's like, oh, it's determined safe. And then they had that same vaccine had to go through the efficacy trials. And the efficacy trials determined that I think it was like 95% effective or whatever. And then it got emergency use authorization.
Right. Yeah, but
how many
people...
that
makes sense, though. I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, how many people... Well, if it ended up being efficacious anyway, how many people could have had their lives saved if they had access to that vaccine in, say, June, July, August, September, instead of waiting for the government to approve it? Yeah,
but what I mean is, if they have to do 2 studies, one to see if the thing is safe and then one to see if it does anything, right? Like, you don't want to have a situation, especially with the COVID vaccine, where you had basically the government, at least in America, was subsidizing them and selling them or giving them out for free. Basically, you don't want to have a situation where taxpayers are spending billions of dollars on vaccines that don't even work, even if they're don't harm you.
Well, I don't think we should have been subsidizing them anyway.
Okay, but we did. Okay, but even if we don't subsidize them, you don't want all Americans to spend their own hard-earned money on something that does nothing, right? That's just sugar water.
I mean, I guess in a free market, we would have eventually found out if they were efficacious or not. But the people who were most vulnerable to a disease like COVID, they would have had the opportunity to try a vaccine. They might say, okay, this might not work. It might work. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then I'm not any more safe than I was before. And the vaccine ended up being pretty efficacious anyway. My point is if people had the right to buy the vaccine before it cleared efficacy trials, which are mandated by the government, then a lot of people could have been saved. I say that I bring this up to counter your guys' notion that in a profit-driven healthcare system, free market, where the alternative is everyone donates a kidney or it's just dog eat dog. I don't think it would be dog eat dog. I think it'd be a lot of people's self-interest to.
No, my only point in bringing it up is that it is this thing that people do. I just looked up approximately 6,000 people a year choose to donate a kidney. Sometimes it's to a family member. Sometimes it's to a total stranger. People do this. People donate body parts to total strangers, which that is the epitome of altruism.
Let me ask you this. Have you donated your kidney to a stranger?
I'm thinking about doing it now, just for fun.
Good for you.
I mean, this seems like kind of a cool thing. Just think, somebody right now is spending, hours a week on a dialysis machine, and they could just be using one of my totally healthy kidneys. Well, I don't know how healthy my kidneys are. I've done a bunch of drugs and shit, so they might get one of my kidneys and immediately end up in an LSD flashback. So who knows?
I mean, if it's the right thing to do, I'd ask, why aren't you guys doing it yourself already?
See, but this is, it's funny.
And would you rather be in a society that forced this morality on you?
Look, you're immediately going to an emotional argument here.
It's not emotional.
You're immediately saying, listen, why are you making me feel bad about this? Why don't you guys
I'm not feeling bad.
A kidney?
I have both my kidneys, and let me tell you, I feel wonderful about it, okay? But you guys are saying, like, wouldn't it be nice if everyone donated their kidney to a stranger? I'm asking why you're not doing it.
Well, no, I'm just saying
this is the right thing to
do. You're promoting a morality, though, that is basically calling these people jackasses. Which
I'm not calling them jackasses. If someone wants to donate their kidney, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Well, I don't. What would Ayn Rand say about these people?
I don't know. She's been dead. I think she died before I was born. So
I'd say they're fucking dumb. But
I didn't look up her stance on this specific issue of donating your kidney to a stranger.
I don't think donating the kidneys is a good example.
Okay.
I think like donating blood would be a better example, because it's something that you can do without necessarily harming yourself.
Yeah,
but it's not as good. It's not as good an example of altruism, though. Obviously. I mean, you're literally giving something away you might need.
Most people, and I don't fault them for that, most people are not going to donate an organ to a stranger for just on like a whim. I don't think societies functions that way at all. So I don't agree with this example.
I should probably ask myself, why wouldn't I donate a kidney to a stranger now? Because it would probably likely increase my own likelihood of death. Like I said earlier, if I donate my kidney now, and then if I end up having a kidney problem in the future, now I'm short a kidney. Now I've increased my own likelihood of death. But if it was someone that I really cared about, and I was the only match, then I would probably be more willing to give a kidney, because I might decide that living in a world without the person I care about is not a life worth living.
Right. Yeah. You're making it a cost benefit exchange. I'm more interested in the fact that we live in a society where 6,000 people a year are like, here, take my kidney. You need it more than me, which is just, I mean, that to me, to build a society that's capable of that kind of behavior, I mean, it seems super adaptive to me. It seems like a better society, a healthier society than one where people are unwilling to do such things for others. And I just, in the context of objectivism seems to be saying that a society where that doesn't happen would be a healthier society. And I fundamentally think that's incorrect, just on the face of it.
I don't know if I make the argument that I think a freer, pro-reason society in general would be a lot healthier society. And it's possible that with the innovation that we would see in things like medicine, that people would probably be less likely. We'd probably need less kidney donations, because who knows, we might have synthetic kidneys. Aren't they working on synthetic organs at the moment?
They are, but
yeah.
I feel like this is very much sort of in the realm of Sam Harris's, we can construct this like logical moral framework that is better than religion. And it's like, that would be nice. I would like that. I'm so skeptical of humans' ability to do this. It seems like the majority of people do not engage in being rational 99% of the time. It seems like the majority of people do need to believe that there is an afterlife, or there's a God or something to sort of dictate their morality and behavior. And I just don't buy, like, if we could live in that world that you're talking about, I would love to. I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the culture, again, is philosophically ready for a radical form of capitalism. And I think before we get there, we would have to fundamentally change the philosophical trends in the culture to where people are more rationally self-interest and focused on living good lives, pursuing values. And I think as a consequence of that, you would see people living longer. You'd see better technology. You'd see life overall better in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just,
and maybe in that, and you know what, Sitch, to make you feel better, maybe in that society, you'd still see a lot of people giving their kidneys, giving their organs, maybe selling their organs. Who knows?
This is the thing, you can't sell. You can't sell organs, and I'm conflicted about that.
That's the beauty about freedom, is that you know what, if you want to spend your life donating organs, I'm not going to stop you. You have every right to, and maybe there might be disagreement over that.
Well, I want to go back though to because we're talking about the COVID vaccines. I want to kind of get back to that for a second because, like, I don't know, the idea that you're kind of positing to me doesn't. I don't think this is part of why I don't think it's possible. And I guess this ties into, like, is it possible for us to create this rational society? Because even now, in our situation where we have, the COVID vaccines that went through the efficacy trials and all this stuff,
Sorry.
It says
I won't play with the soundboard.
Also.
You want?
Oh yeah, don't do that.
I remember you said something about how, Kirk, I like his videos, but he plays with his soundboard too much or something.
I did you say that. Yeah. Come on, what are you? Why are you doing that?
Excuse me, princess.
All right, that's the last sound drop I'll play. I promise.
So you guys missed Kirk playing with himself while we were gone, so you guys got off easy.
Kirk has an amazing soundboard that Adam just doesn't like. Okay.
You guys got off easy. I got off easy. Everyone wins.
Perfect.
There you go.
Anyway.
I don't even know what we're talking about. What were we talking
about?
COVID,
you said. That's why the stream got taken down.
Who cares about? No one cares about vaccines.
Yeah.
Well, in the vaccine situation, though, they had to do trials. And you had a number of people that signed up that were like, oh, this is an experimental vaccine that nobody's taken. Let me take it first. Like, even that is the perfect picture of where altruism serves society, right?
Don't a lot of people get paid for that? Because I know
they're getting
people
paid, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's altruism. People are getting paid. I'm sure people who had faith that it would work and wanted protection signed up for that.
Okay.
I don't know if
Do we think that something like a vaccine would not be profitable, and that insurance companies and even employers would be willing to foot a cost like that because it would protect their own employees and potential customers? I guess it can't expand this to customers, but it would protect their employees from getting sick. Health insurance companies would say, yeah, we'll pay for a vaccine because paying, say $10-20 for the shot is a lot cheaper than you potentially ending up in a hospital bed for 5 days.
Oh, no. Obviously, like, if, with COVID especially, there's a huge financial incentive for all these different players to create a vaccine, sell a vaccine, make sure that people and their employees can get the vaccine and all this stuff. My contention was just that if you remove the government regulation from that equation, you would have so many bad actors.
Specifically, the efficacy regulation?
Yeah, the efficacy, or just even the regulations about who can exactly create these vaccines in the first place. You'd have so many bad actors that are selling, snake oil instead. I mean, we already have that.
Yeah,
regarding COVID, but it'd be so much worse.
Why doesn't this happen? I mean, it might happen in other parts of the market anyway, but you notice in other parts of the market that are less regulated, the best product tends to win out over time, and people trust the businesses that put out the best product. So why don't you think that people wouldn't say, look, say the Pfizer vaccine, let's say it's 95% effective, but then say the dollar store vaccine is only 60%. Maybe I'll go with the Pfizer vaccine because it seems to do a lot better job of protecting me from illness.
Well, I don't have a problem with people learning over time, which paper towel is the best paper towel, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to cause, long-term strife in their life if they make poor decisions about which paper towel to get. But the problem with like the vaccine, first of all, with especially with COVID vaccine, which I think is such a clear example of this, it's since the vaccine doesn't even prevent you from necessarily getting COVID.
Yeah.
It's like so difficult. Like it's impossible, I think, for a person to judge the efficacy of a vaccine because it doesn't prevent you from getting it. And so you say, well, wait a minute, you have to judge it on how sick would I have gotten without this getting the vaccine, which is something no one knows the answer to.
Yeah, it's not always easy to tell, and especially in the early days. But again, my point is that if you're someone who's very vulnerable, and the options are, I can take this vaccine, it might be efficacious, it might not be, but the alternative is no vaccine. Which alternative would you rather have?
Well, because it's not a question of like, oh, the idea is there's nothing or there's this vaccine, because if you remove the efficacy trials, the question is, would then you have all these different actors who would be more likely to rush something to market that maybe doesn't work just to get that money, just to make profit, which I mean, see that 100% what would happen.
I mean, it sounds like you kind of want it both ways here, because you're saying that I think, or maybe you said earlier, that consumers might be hesitant to trust a vaccine early. And again, you might have that, but yeah, you might also have companies that try to rush a vaccine without knowing how efficacious it is, without doing trials to demonstrate. And they're probably going to have a lot harder time demonstrating to the consumer that their product works. So why would consumers?
Well, if there's no efficacy, if there's only safety trials and no efficacy trials, what would stop people from literally just selling injections of sugar water? That's that cause no harm.
Have you purchased a vehicle ever?
Yeah.
What did you do when you went through purchasing that vehicle? Did you look up like safety tests? Did you look up ratings? Anything?
Sure. Yeah, I did all that stuff.
I mean, yeah.
What a soy boy.
But, first of all, I know Adam's laughing. Yeah, but here's the thing, is that I'm at least operating under the assumption, I could be wrong, that these safety ratings, all these things, that these exist because they follow, or I have trust and faith in these things because I know that there's some sort of regulation about them.
There are definitely regulations in the car market, but even with the regulations, you do see a lot of private, what are they called? They do, like there are different testing agencies for vehicles that often compete with each other. And you still have to weigh the cost benefit analysis between different vehicles. Like, oh, this car, if you look at the safety test, like it's a lot less likely to survive an auto accident. This one gets better fuel mileage, but if it rolls over a hill, I'm much less likely to survive. So even then you still see rating. I think that's what it's looking for, ratings agencies that do all these reports. I think it's in the best interest of the companies to do that, to show what their cars are about. Because as we know, safety isn't the only standard when buying a car. You also have longevity. You have, fuel mileage, how fast it goes, how many passengers it holds. But safety is definitely one of those aspects where you can weigh the benefits and drawbacks of various different competing cars. And you might decide, you know what, this car is not as safe as the other car, but it gets higher fuel standards and whatnot. And you'd probably see that in medicine too. Or I should probably ask, why wouldn't you see that in medicine, where different pharmaceutical companies, so maybe some rush it to the market, but other pharmaceutical companies will say, look, we've done a lot of rigorous testing on this. Our vaccines are always the best on the market. The people who take our vaccines have the by far the smallest fatality and hospitalization rate compared with these other guys. Why wouldn't you see that?
Well, of course, the own company is going to say that about their own product. But I mean,
but if they're relying on third-party agencies, like we see in places like automobiles, you see this a lot in video games and computers, tablets. You often see different journalists, ratings agencies.
Yeah, but all that stuff is garbage.
It is?
I don't know about you.
Well, then how can you really decide which product to buy then?
That's the problem. It's like, first of all, you're asking the wrong person, because I'm well known, especially by people in chat, that I spend an exorbitant amount of time researching everything to an extent that's beyond what any normal, sane human being would ever do. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I need to buy new headphones. I need to buy a new coffee maker or something. And I'll go through all these reviews. And but this is the problem, is at the end of the day, it's all basically useless to me. Because especially if you just go say what headphones should I buy? You're going to get all these websites that are these garbage websites. They're all going to give you the same 10-ish or so headphones. They're all sponsored. buy whoever's selling these fucking headphones. They'll give you the most garbage takes ever. And it's just like this horrible process of like going through all the reviews and just trying to, hope you land on the right thing. And very often, I'll buy something after doing all this research and it turns out to be a piece of shit. And you're like, oh, okay, well, this is a fucking huge waste of time. So, I mean, and in a broader example of that, a far more like damaging example of that was the housing crash. I mean, you had all these private rating agencies that were basically, because they were getting, making money, they basically sold the high ratings to the banks for whatever they wanted to do. So, I think you're always going to need a government or a referee of some kind to go in there and say, no, you got to do this.
Well, what's starting the housing crash? Do we really want to go there anyway?
We can. I mean, I'm just purely talking about the rating agencies.
No, I know. I get the point about the housing crash. There were a lot of problems with the ratings agencies, and there was definitely a lot of corruption there.
Yes. And that was all from private rating entities.
Well, weren't some of them government rating agencies, and the government trusted these agencies and whatnot?
No, well, the government trusted the agencies, but the agencies were private. They weren't government run, like Moody's and whatever the other one is. The name escapes. The other big one's name escapes me.
Yeah, and the reason why the housing crash started was because both the Clinton and Bush administrations were pursuing policies to try to drive up homeownership, particularly for low-income Americans, and pressured banks into offering subsidized loans with no down payment. And so a lot of bad mortgages were given out as a result that were sponsored by government sponsoring enterprises like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yeah, but well, two things. First of all, that doesn't have anything to do with the rating agencies.
You're right.
But secondly,
I don't know if I want to pivot.
Right. Okay. But secondly, that's not exactly accurate depiction of what happened, because basically, while it's true that the government was trying to get, lower income individuals to buy houses, they didn't force the banks into doing anything. When these private banks kind of figured out, I forget what year it was. They talk about this in Moneyball, and no, they talk about this in The Big Short and Liar's Poker. I think it was like in the late 80s they started figuring this out. When the investment banks started to figure out that they could do these mortgage-backed securities, they could do this tranching stuff. I mean, they went gangbusters for this. There was definitely a lot of bad actors in the private sector. Right, but it's not just a question.
But it wouldn't have happened without the government intervening in
housing.
No,
that's no. That's I completely disagree with you. Yeah, because the thing is that it's not a question of that. It's not even a question of bad actors. It's a question of once they figured out they could do the mortgage-backed securities, they were so motivated to do this because property was always going to be seen as like the forever win. It was always going to just continue to rise and rise and rise. And if someone defaulted, it didn't matter because you could just sell it to someone else. So I don't see how the government came in and made any of that.
It definitely stimulated demand in a market that influenced a lot of that bad behavior.
How so?
Because those bad mortgages would not have been lent out and given out in the first place if it weren't for the government subsidizing and lowering barriers to entry.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate because
so none of these bad mortgages still would have been given out if the government wasn't subsidizing and reducing barriers like eliminating the down payment.
Yes, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac only got involved in the subprime mortgages once all the private banks. Well, first of all, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, this is part of why this is so complicated. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is a quasi-private, quasi-government organization. So they still want to make a profit. And that was actually the problem, because you had all these private investment banks which were going gangbusters, making shit tons of money on mortgage-backed securities. And so Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, since they're still somewhat of a private institute, they need to make money. And they say, holy shit, we're totally losing out on the market share for mortgage-backed securities. And so they get involved after everyone else is already going gangbusters with it. They're doing it to play catch-up.
Yeah,
where if they were a pure government organization, if they were a pure government organization, they wouldn't care. They would say, well, we don't need to corner the market share in anything. So if private banks are doing this, then that's fine. We'll just keep doing whatever we're doing.
But why would private banks make bad investments if the government wasn't either forcing or encouraging the behavior?
Because they didn't think they were bad investments.
Or they
That's
probably
why.
thought they were going to get bailed out if shit really hit the fan.
Well, no, is what I said. No one
And
believed,
then, okay.
no one believed that the housing market would ever go down. They thought this was the sure bet.
Yeah. Yeah, and the ratings agencies had a role in that, but I don't think it would have. I don't think the mortgages would have been lent in the first place without institutions like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac getting involved. Which
they got involved. No, they got, as I said, they got involved. If you look at the timeline, if you look into this,
yeah,
the timeline,
75% of the risky mortgages were sponsored by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate. And they got, as I said, they only started to get involved once they were losing the market share of mortgage-backed securities. And the only reason they felt like they cared about this was because they had to, because they're a quasi-private organization that cares about making a profit. Or if it was a purely government organization, they wouldn't care and thus wouldn't have been involved in any of this stuff. Like, if it was just Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that were the problem, then when the housing crash came, all these private banks wouldn't have collapsed because it would just be Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac holding all the bad investments. But it wasn't. It was all the banks that were holding all the bad investments. That's why the government had to bail out all these banks. And this is part of what was it called, Adam? When the banks, what's the repos? Well,
yeah, the repos.
Right, like the banks had so much faith in
Short
these mortgage
sales. That's
yeah,
what you're
the banks
talking
had so much faith in these mortgage-backed securities that they were using them as daily collateral to loan out money to each other. So like they obviously didn't think this was going to go bad.
Yeah, the mortgage-backed securities they called the toxic assets. They actually use those for down payments on loans and shit.
Right. So it's not like they wouldn't have done that if they were like, oh, we're forced to give out these bad loans because of the government, you know.
Yeah, starting in 1992, Fannie and Freddie were required to help the government meet its affordable housing goals by repurchasing mortgages made to lower income borrowers.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next decade and a half, both the Clinton and Bush administrations increased the government-sponsored and would increase the government-sponsored enterprises' affordable housing quotas, which over time forced them to lower their underwriting standards by buying riskier and riskier mortgages. And then by 2008, there were 55 million mortgages. 31 were considered risky or subprime, and of these 31 million, 76% were on the books of government agencies, primarily Fannie and Freddie.
Okay, that doesn't answer the question. The question is how much of the market share did they have? If you're trying to assert blame,
for me, it answers
right?
the question whether or not the root cause of it was government intervention.
How? That didn't answer anything.
All right.
You just said that all that you just read was that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were trying to give out trying to give mortgages to people in low-income situations.
Yeah, they were required to help the government meet its affordable housing goals by repurchasing mortgages made to lower income borrowers.
Right. Fannie, that doesn't prove that they caused the collapse. It just said that's explaining why Fannie and Freddie were giving mortgages out to
and I'm to believe
people.
that these mortgages would have been given out if the government wasn't trying to meet certain housing quotas.
Wait, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac was doing its thing. They're doing their thing separate from Bank of America and JP Morgan and all those other banks. They're all doing those things completely independently of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yeah, I'm not forgiving the private sector and all of the bad investments they made as a result of this. I'm just saying the root cause of it was the government trying to drive up housing quotas.
No, it wasn't. The root cause of it was in private investment banks thinking that they had a sure win on mortgage-backed securities, and as they were doing this, and they were investing
made it
more
worse.
and more.
I'm not arguing with you on that. They definitely made it worse. I just
no. You're saying that they're the cause, and I'm saying how you're not. You haven't given any evidence that they were the cause of this problem. No, you just you just explained how they were involved. How is that the cause?
I mean, I don't know what else I can say, but
am I missing something, Adam? I'm lost. I don't understand how you
He's
think
saying
that proves
he's
the cause of
saying
anything.
that the government wanted to increase home ownership, which they did.
You can see videos of George Bush explaining this, I think in 2003, and he was bragging about how he was increasing funding to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and getting rid of.
I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand. I'm not denying the government obviously wants to increase home ownership. They've been doing this for decades. I completely agree with you. Okay. The question is how you're claiming that government policy is what created the housing crash, when I'm saying no. What created the housing crash was all these private banks who were at the same time and even before this giving out as many bad loans as possible and then selling them off to other people and not really giving a shit about whether they fail or not, because they all thought that they were, going to win no matter what, and all the rating agencies were rating crap as AAA ratings.
And they should have failed. They should have been let to fail. They should have been allowed.
Well, they could maybe, but that's a different question.
Yeah.
And so who caused the crisis?
A catastrophic
that's a good
economic
question.
failure in the United States, I don't think would be a good idea. And they actually, they made money off of the TARP, the Toxic Asset Relief Program. So the government stepped in.
The government did?
Yeah, the government stepped in and bought all the mortgage-backed securities and basically sat on them long enough for them to become valuable again, and then sold them on the open market and actually made money for the government.
Yeah, they a lot of people don't know that. Is you especially hear this with the whole student loan thing. Like, oh, if we bailed out Wall Street, we can bail out our students. It's like Wall Street they ended up paying back more of the money that they borrowed. So
yeah, and
whether or
that
not they
gender
should have is a
studies
different
major is never going to make any money. There's no way in hell. Like you can pay off their student loans, but they're not going to make any money, right? BuzzFeed went out of business, right? There's not enough BuzzFeed article listicles out there.
Did they go out of business, or did they just get sold to someone else?
Oh, I'm not sure. Don't think about it too much. It's a joke. This is a comedy show. We're here to tell jokes.
And again, the problem with Fannie and Freddie
Sitch
wasn't
is so serious about the housing stuff.
Well, because as I hear this a lot, and this is not accurate. The problem with Fannie and Freddie wasn't that the government said you have to buy a bunch of crappy, mortgages. The problem was that they're still a private company. They still have a board. They still have shareholders that they have to appease. And if you actually look at when they acquired things and the pressures that they were under pressure not from the government. They were under pressure from their shareholders and their board to jump into this market and to acquire a lot of these risky mortgages and these risky investments. And if it was just a pure government organization that didn't care about making profit, they wouldn't have done any of that behavior.
But they are involved with the government.
Right. But that's the problem isn't that they're the government. The problem is that they're private.
Well, they're not private if they're involved with the government.
No, they're both.
They're not fully private. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the problem is the profit motive is what drove the negative behavior, not the government motive, not the, you need to help poor people motive. And if you had eliminated the profit motive from that situation, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wouldn't have been involved in that behavior at all in the first place, because they would have said, hey, we don't need to, we're a government organization. The government organization by design doesn't need to corner the market on anything. It's supposed to shore up the gaps. So they wouldn't have this desire in 2005 to say, hey, we're losing our market share to private banks. Because if you're a government organization and you're losing your market share to a private industry, you'd be like, well, that's fine. That's the fucking goal, at least in most capitalistic societies, and especially under, neoliberal economic policy, people like George Bush.
Love it.
Government-sponsored enterprises, but they're completely private. All right.
Yeah, but that's the problem, is this sort of weird, kinship between basically the government footing the bill and then also telling them to do some specific things, but them still being motivated by, private motives, profit motive stuff.
Sitch is a statist, just so you know, Kirk. He's a official bootlicker of the show.
There you go.
Filthy commie.
Me, I'm not one of those dirty statists. So, Kirk, have you read anything on MMT, Mommy Milker Theory?
I call it PMMT, print more money theory.
Okay. So do you have Do you have a take on MMT or?
I mean, I think the government controlling the money supply is just working out wonderfully right now. And yeah, I mean, you especially read the leading intellectuals like Stephanie Kelton, who are spearheading this movement. I remember a few years ago, she wrote an article for Huffington Post about how to finance her Green New Deal policy. And she's just like, yeah, we just print trillions of dollars. That's how we're going to pay for it.
Well, I
And,
don't buy into any of that bullshit.
Okay.
That stuff. I don't like the Green New Deal stuff. Not a fan of, obviously. I think climate change is, I mean, obviously man-made climate change is real, but we need to be sensible about how we attack the problem. I'm in favor of free market solutions to climate change, to basically at least work on the issue. I think we should put more money into research, that kind of stuff. But what as far as MMT goes, I mean, do you talk about economics? Have you read a bunch of economics? Are you would you call yourself an Austrian or?
I definitely favor the Austrian school of economics. And yeah, I think I was joking earlier about government controlling the money supply. But yeah, I think currency and banking should be completely privatized. And if the government's going to be involved, again, it should be definitely involved on punishing neglect and fraud in banking.
So one of the things that's interesting to me about MMT is that they postulate that you create demand for the currency, which is basically a stabilizing effect for business and for industry by taxes. Taxes are how you drive demand for the actual currency. How do you solve that problem in the private sector? How do you create demand for currency in the private sector?
Why wouldn't there be demand for currency in the private sector?
Well, I mean, there's this thing called Bitcoin that everybody's telling me I should buy, which there's absolutely no reason for me to have Bitcoin ever. There's no demand for me to have Bitcoin. I don't need Bitcoin in my life. I just assume not have Bitcoin in my life. It seems like a big headache to me. So there's no demand. There's no forced creation of demand. Now, all of a sudden, if the United States government stepped in and said, listen, Adam, you have to pay your fucking taxes in Bitcoin. All of a sudden, I'm out there going, okay, I got to get some fucking Bitcoin here.
Yeah, I'm not really that into cryptocurrency.
Okay, but you understand the problem, right?
What do you mean?
Of creating demand for a currency.
I think there would be demand for currency anyway. People need a medium of exchange to exchange goods and services because it's not really optimal to just, trade 20 apples for a PlayStation 2. Right,
but okay, let's say all the banks come up with their own independent currency. Well, how is that going to be more efficient? Like, I'm going to have B of A currency and you're going to have Wells Fargo currency. Like, what drives the demand for everybody to operate in one currency if it's not a central bank?
How does the video game market figure out all this stuff? Like, how do they figure out how to standardize stuff like discs? Like, now they have SD cards. Now that PlayStation has Blu-ray CDs, I think, whereas the Switch, you might have different standards, but I think you still see, in a lot of ways, software is programmed for the different consoles. Maybe this isn't the best example, but I don't know. I think the banks would probably figure out how to convert different rates if they decided to back their currencies by different resources. I want to make it clear I'm not necessarily pro gold standard. I think the bank should decide how to back their currency, and I think they would probably find a lot more efficient ways of backing their currency with certificates of exchange, so to speak.
Just to respond to the video game aspect of it. The reason why there's demand for video games is it provides some kind of utility, right? Entertainment is basically the utility. The utility that a currency provides is obviously stability, right? You want some.
But going back to the video game, it'd be like asking me, well, what if I want to play the new Ninja Turtles game, but it's only on the PlayStation. Like who's going to figure out how to like port that to different systems? And as we see, it eventually gets figured out, even if it takes a lot more investment in division of labor and whatnot. And I think banks would probably figure that out in a free market. I think they would probably find ways to exchange currencies and deal with one another. I don't think banks would necessarily be exclusive. You see this a lot, even in the tech industry, a lot of cooperation with still competition. So I guess that's my way of saying I don't have an answer, but I think the free market would probably, actors on the free market would probably figure it out.
Okay. I'm not necessarily sure how. Like, I could conceive of a way that they figure it out in the same way, like a social media company creates this scale that they kind of form a natural monopoly. So because everybody's using Bank of America currency, everybody's kind of forced to use it in the same way. You know, everyone's forced to use Facebook because all their friends are using Facebook. But I don't necessarily know that a free market solution, which, I mean, technically the central bank is supposed to be a free market solution anyway, because it's this quasi institution that's not necessarily governmental, not fully governmental and not fully private. So I feel like they're basically trying to do kind of a free market solution. But and there's even disagreement. I think that's like one of the big disagreements between Chicago and Austrians is whether or not there should be a central bank, if I'm recalling correctly. So, I don't know how you have a stable currency without a central bank. So I know a lot of people don't like the central bank, but I constantly. They're basically trying to manage the money supply so that we have a stable money supply so we don't have inflation. I don't know how you have that without. I don't know how deflation is just as bad as inflation. I don't know how you have that without somebody managing the currency. You're basically saying a private sector entity could come in and manage the currency. But wouldn't you be just as upset when that private sector industry solution decides they're going to be the ones printing money? Or, I mean, somebody has to print money, right?
Well, yeah, and I think traditionally before the Federal Reserve, my understanding is that banks would issue currency to back up that was backed by stuff like gold and silver. So if you had paper dollars, it was just a lot. I think this was a natural innovation from whatever existed of the market, where it was just optimal to carry pieces of paper rather than to lug around gold coins or silver coins and whatnot. And if you ever wanted to actually get that gold and silver, then you would go to your bank and exchange that for the gold and silver.
But that constrains economic activity by how much gold they just so happen to possess. Like if you go to the bank and you say, listen, I want to open a business, so I want to take out a loan so I can purchase a building and hire people. Why should that economic activity be constrained by the amount of gold in the bank's vault? Let's say the gold in the vault is enough to start 10 restaurants, but you have 25 people that want to come and start restaurants. Then all of a sudden, a gold standard doesn't make a lot of sense, because you could have 25 restaurants worth of economic activity, all of that production, all of those jobs, all of that going on.
What would happen if everyone in America tomorrow got into a car accident and the insurance companies did not have enough money to pay off everyone's claims?
Well, I'm not sure what that has to do with the constraining of the economic activity by some commodity.
Well,
you understand the basic principle of what I'm setting up here? Like if you can start 25 restaurants or you can start 10 restaurants, which is better for the economy?
Well, the bank would decide which are the best investment. And if all 25 restaurants, if they believe that all 25 restaurants would make a good return on the investment, then they'd all get the investment, but they might not. It's like an episode of Shark Tank. Sometimes people get investments, sometimes people don't.
For the sake of argument, let's say that they're all just completely winning ideas. So you've got 25 people, completely stellar winning ideas. These are going to be the industries of the future. But you've only got enough gold in your vault to give loans to 10 of them. You're basically saying no to 15 of those people just based on the fact that you're doing this weird thing with gold.
Yeah, the point I was getting at with the insurance example is it's probably likely that banks would lend out more money than they had in reserve, because it's highly unlikely that everyone would come and make a claim on gold in exchange for paper currency. So they might still lend out that money, because in the long run, they'll eventually get a lot more money back, and then they won't really. And in the meantime, unless everyone just decides to make a run on the bank to withdraw their gold deposits, you might have a problem then, but that probably would not happen, because redeeming gold is not exactly, again, optimum.
Well, the gold standard aside, the idea of producing 25 businesses that are going to add productivity to the economy, right? So you're going to have 25 restaurants that are going to be competing. Obviously, if you're producing that much more food, the price of food is going to go down, right? That's what happens when all of a sudden productivity climbs, prices drop. You've got a substantially larger number of output. Now, this is why you print money, because this is as long as productivity is going up, you can safely print money without inflation. Like deflation all of a sudden becomes a problem, right? You've got 25 new businesses competing, and next thing you know, a hamburger costs 10 cents, and there's not enough income to actually pay your workers.
Yeah, but why wouldn't this also be a problem with the central planners also printing money?
Well, this is the whole purpose of central banks. Central banks literally do this. That the whole job of the central bank is to manage the money supply, so you don't get deflation or inflation. Well, they shoot obviously for 2% inflation, because deflation is a problem, because in a deflationary environment, you're kind of a fool to buy something today that's going to be cheaper tomorrow. So people tend to sit on their money in a deflationary environment. Nobody buys anything. The economy slows down. People start getting laid off. Next thing you know, we're in a deflationary spiral headed towards the next Great Depression. So that's why we have a central bank to actually manage the money supply, to kind of keep us at that 2% inflation level.
And I don't think they've really done a good job. And I think
well, you can say that.
Yeah. The Federal Reserve, I think, by controlling the money supply, sends distortions throughout the economy, because it doesn't really match what the market would bear if it were completely free.
Well, but you can say you don't think they've done a great job. That's something completely different than saying nobody doing anything would do a better job.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody's doing anything. I think the banks would figure out how to better allocate capital. Mm-hmm. And I think you're concocting the situation.
The banks are in charge. First of all, the banks are in charge of allocating capital. They're already doing that. Yeah. That is their job.
Well, my understanding is the Federal Reserve gives the banks money to essentially lend out.
The current state of affairs now, and we just recently got rid of the reserves requirements. A lot of people understand fractional reserve banking, where the bank is supposed to take in savings and keep 10% of that savings in reserve, and can loan out 90% of the money they take into savings. That system really no longer exists. The banks are basically working as franchises of the central bank.
Yeah.
So if 25 people show up and they all want to start restaurants, the bank's job is to look into these people to see, if this looks like a good business proposal, and give the person the money if it does look like a good business proposal. But the whole thinking behind that is business activity is always good because it increases productivity. Increasing productivity drives down prices in a deflationary way, right? If we're making 1,000 hamburgers, those hamburgers are going to be cheaper than if we're making 100 hamburgers, right? So more production drives down prices. You can print more money then to build more restaurants and create more economic activity.
Yeah, but at the same, if the central bank is doing that, and especially if they're lending out money at a cheap rate, you would likely get a lot more malinvestment than you would in a free market, and that would eventually create bubbles and distortions that eventually need to be corrected.
What is the bubble and distortion? What is that? Is that like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think there are a lot of economists that think that the cheap money in the 1920s is eventually what led to the stock market crash, because a lot of money was being lent out because money was cheap during the 1920s, and a lot of that money went into the stock market. So a lot of the stock market was overvalued, and it eventually had to be corrected, and that's what led to the stock market crash of the late 1920s.
Yeah, that could be happening. I think a lot of the run up in crypto was because of the COVID payments. People who didn't need the money basically invested it. Hey, Sitch, are you still around?
No, I left.
Good for you.
Oh.
We have a bunch of super chats to read, so I mean, we should land this ship sooner or later.
You're right. You're right.
I hope we haven't been too argumentative with you.
No,
Kirk.
I've been enjoying this. I wish I was more calm. I feel like I'm talking way too fast and trying to get as many words out of my mouth as fast as I can.
You can come back anytime, man.
All right. Well, I do want to thank you guys for having me on. And sorry if I know me and Sitch had a disagreement over the financial crisis.
Fuck you.
He disagrees with everyone.
I think for a minute I was a little too condescending, but
no, it's
all right.
totally fine.
We're all good.
How do you feel about the Rings of Power? That's the real question.
I don't care about Lord of the Rings, and
wow.
So
how dare you're not allowed to do that in current year. I can't believe this take. Jeez.
By the way, so I see a lot. I don't know if I came up with this term, but non-traversy.
That's a great term.
You didn't, but I've heard that. It's a great term. Yeah.
Okay, so I the word popped in my head because a lot of people are freaking out about like the casting of Lord of the Rings. I see a lot of complaining about the complaining, but I've seen no one really complain about the casting of Lord of the Rings. What do you guys think about that?
You've
So
seen
you
no
haven't
one.
seen people complain about the casting?
All
Or
I've seen is people complaining about the casting of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
because
maybe I'm wrong then.
The diversity hire, basically, that it's all against canon because it's all like
See, I've seen none
ad.
of that complaining, but I've seen people dunking on that complaining. So I got the impression this was a big controversy. I just keep seeing stories like, oh, so what? You're telling me that like a world with elves can't also be diverse? And I'm like, I'm seeing no one complain about this. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong though.
There are people complaining about it, but I would say that's not the main complaint. I mean, the main complaint is, the show is boring and not good. But there were complaints about the shoehorning in of diversity into the stuff.
Okay.
So, I think it's funny because it's literally what the first ever video I ever did for YouTube was about this. And this is where the people, especially the wokies, sort of twist things around. Where people that are complaining about diversity, it's not because they're like, oh, I hate black people, so I don't want to see black elves. It's that they see the shoehorning of diversity into these shows and movies as a signal that like wokeness is sort of invading every aspect of media and society. And so that's how they I think that's why people get so mad about it.
Yeah, they feel like they're winning. The woke ideology is beating us in the marketplace of ideas because of the casting choices that they're making. Hey, is there super chats? I think
super chats.
J-Max does touch on
J-Mac,
altruism.
our surrogate father, for $300. Now here is J-Mac, the pure father of altruism. Okay,
right.
Definitely to us at least. Says, isn't altruism just doing acts that you hope have a tangible impact on society, fostering a positive present for you and a positive future for your progeny? For example, when I return the shopping cart, it doesn't directly impact me. However, I teach my kids to do this and in turn hope society follows suit.
Oh, so we got to talk about the shopping cart now?
I guess.
Do you guys watch Cart Narcs, that YouTube channel?
No.
Oh, no.
Well,
no.
You don't?
I just know because I never return. Well, I've been very good about returning the shopping cart recently.
I guilted Adam into returning shop. He used to never do it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
But now there's a channel that's going to come out and give me a hard time. Jeez.
It's such a funny channel. People like, because what they do, the guy like will go, he has like a body camera and everything, and someone doesn't put their cart back. He puts like a magnet on their cart saying, I'm a big jerk, I don't return my shopping cart. And then he tries to like, he's very polite with them saying, look, I just want you to put your cart back and I'll take the bumper sticker. And then a lot of times it turns into like a 10-15 minute ordeal where they get all bent out of shape and flustered. And it's like, you could have avoided all of this headache if you just return your cart.
I mean, I would like the magnet, so I would probably drive off with it.
Do you get
I put
like
that
a magnet
on my fridge.
If you return the shopping cart, do you get like a good magnet?
No,
Like
I don't
thumbs
think. I don't think so.
Oh, that's the problem. You gotta give positive incentives, not just negative ones.
I've only had one indiscretion recently, Sitch. I was in the shopping.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the grocery store across town, and they didn't have a shopping cart return on my side of the lot. It was total bullshit. Like I had to go all the way to the other side of the lot to return.
How long do you think it would have taken you to walk to where it was?
I don't less than a minute, but I wasn't gonna do it.
I was like, this will take me an extra 20 to 30 seconds. This is bullshit.
I wasn't
I'm
gonna
leaving
do
this
it.
cart right
Listen,
here.
we're having a fucking heat wave. It was like 100. It was like 105 degrees.
You're
was
still
like-
in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, you're in LA too, right?
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's been unbearable.
I know. It's been terrible. Yeah, so I left the cart. I was like, I'm done. This is good enough.
Okay,
I'm getting in
cheers.
on the air conditioning. So,
Right.
is there any more that are Kirk related? I don't want to
Okay.
release
No, but I
it.
will-
if we-
I
Well,
would
with the
assume-
shopping cart, I would say the grocery store, your grocery store provides you with immense value. They manage to, what?
No, that's great. You're gonna give me a good excuse. I love it. Keep going.
They provide you with immense value by acquiring all of these different groceries, produce, meats from around the country, organizing it in one centralized location, often at a low cost. They print you coupons. It's very friendly when you go inside. And they offer you this free shopping cart complimentary to make your shopping trip a lot more convenient and easier for you to put all these groceries in your cart so you can eventually get them in your cart and then go move on with your life. I think the least you could do is show a little bit of courtesy by returning your shopping cart after they provided you with this immense value and made your shopping trip easier.
Well, you see, that's a good way to look at it, Kirk. I actually like to think of myself as a job creator, though.
This comes up in cart narcs all the time. They pay people to do this.
That's funny.
Come on, I'm a job creator.
There you go.
Okay.
And I'm making the person who comes and collects the carts, I'm making their job easier by putting it in a central location.
I've been very good recently. Like I said, I had
right.
one indiscretion. I've confessed my sins to the chat. So
One out of what though? 1 out of 1?
oh no, out of hundreds. Like I've been
okay,
very
fair
good.
enough.
I've been delivering the cart back to the turnaround.
Right.
I park close to the turnaround. I'm thinking ahead. I'm like, okay.
See, earlier when you accused me of accusing or implied that I was accusing kidney donors of being jackasses, I do think people who don't return their cart just to save 5 or 10 seconds on their trip, those are jackasses.
There we go.
Listen, that's 5 or 10 seconds of sacrifice I'm not willing to make. Okay.
If I donate a kidney, can I just leave the shopping cart in the middle of the aisle?
There you
I
go.
feel like I should be able to, right?
There you go.
I've done
That's
that
how it
in the
works.
world.
That's
If
how
you
it
donate a
works.
kidney, you don't have to put back your shopping cart ever again. Just say,
Yeah.
I donated a kidney. I've made up for this.
Yes, I
That's
agree.
what I'll tell
It's
the
a good
cart
system.
narc.
Yeah. Janos Kuhn, thanks so much for being a free will seeker for 2 months. Says, hey now, glad to see Kirk on. Great video, Sitch. What made you decide on She-Hulk for your comeback? S-Class.
You made a She-Hulk video?
I did make She-Hulk video.
I'll have
Yeah.
to watch it after I'm done.
Thank you. Yeah.
I haven't watched the third. I've only watched the first 2 episodes. I thought the first episode was really corny. The second episode kind of took it in a better direction, and I do want to end up watching more, but maybe the third show. Everyone's making a big fuss about the twerking scene, which does look cringe, but
Oh, it's awful. It's
Yeah.
so bad.
What made me decide to do She-Hulk? I think Adam did.
Peer
Adam
pressure,
did.
yeah.
Adam peer pressured me into making the video. Yeah,
I think it was 100% peer pressure.
it was. Yeah,
It was a joint effort. CT joined in as well. So
CT and Adam kept poking the back of my head and spitting on me until I made a video.
So I take it you don't like She-Hulk?
No, it's terrible.
Yeah.
no.
It's garbage. Like the second episode is slightly better than the first, but I mean,
They
that's not
do-
saying much.
Unnecessarily portray a lot of the men in the show as just like being overly misogynistic, but I do like the angle of like she's very passionate about her law career and that's what she wants to do, and now she accidentally gets superpowers and doesn't really want to embrace that part of her life now. So
Well, the one of the main problems with it, beyond what you're talking about, with there's the guy, I call him Don Derper because he seems like a character from Mad Men. He's been like transplanted somehow from the 60s into 2022, who's so sexist, so misogynist. You're like, this is not a real person that would ever exist today.
yeah.
So there is that issue. But I mean, I think the biggest problem with the show is that they're because of wokeness existing in our current year, you can't construct a good comedy around wokeness because, like, when I think of other female lead shows, something related to She-Hulk, I don't know if you've ever seen 30 Rock.
I think I've seen a few episodes.
Liz Lemon.
You got 30 Rock with Liz Lemon, Tina Fey. And it's like so much of comedy, especially comedic TV shows, they revolve around characters who have all these like fucked up characters who have all these character flaws.
Yeah.
And then you put them in wacky situations with other wacky characters, and the fact that all these characters are horribly flawed, bounces up against each other, and that causes conflict, and that's where the humor, almost always comes from. And the problem with She-Hulk is that since they want to make She-Hulk a girl boss, they can't give her any flaws, and thus no comedy can be derived from her actions, because she just has generic Marvel personality where, like, I make smarmy, quippy one-liners, and that's it. I have no flaws. I don't have any faults, so she can have no character arc, and also no comedy can be generated from things she's doing or fuck-ups that she's making. And so, like in the first episode, she has perfect control over her powers, and at the end of the episode, she beats up the bad guy effortlessly, turns back into a lawyer, and it's like there's no conflict for her whatsoever. Like a show, this is supposed to be modeled after Ally McBeal, which, I mean, I vaguely remember watching when I was very young, and Ally McBeal was like a total like fuck up sex maniac, like crazy person. And that's where so much of the conflict and the drama of the show came from, was her actions, and her creating problems for herself and all this stuff. And we can't laugh at female characters anymore because of wokeness. So
yeah, the
Anyway.
She-Hulk video was a group effort, actually. So,
yes,
yeah,
yes, Adam.
I have
helped write
at
it,
least
and-
a dozen jokes in there. Yeah,
yeah, Adam helped write it, and CT did a lot of the editing, so it was a group effort.
Sitch did the first draft of the script. I kind of restructured the script and added a bunch of jokes and shit. And CT did the first edit, and Sitch did like kind of a mammoth second edit. So I mean, we're gonna try to do a video a week now. So
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes.
yeah,
And thank you all guys for heading over and watching that video.
yeah.
Stug for $5 says, Kirk, you need to get enough sound bites so that you need not communicate without it. There you go.
So I need, all right. Yeah, I'll try to get, it's kind of hard because I'm limited with how many sound bites I have. And then, just coming up with what clips I should have in there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, like, I'll watch a movie or a TV show. I'm like, that would make a good soundbite. By the time I isolate it, you can like barely hear it, like within like a 1 second. It's not easy. It's not clear what's said.
Right. I know exactly what you're saying. Do you know the website Yarn?
Yarn?
Oh, I'm going to make your fucking life right now.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
What is yarn?
Okay. This is for everyone. There's a website called, let's see, what is the actual URL? It's getyarn.io. Getyarn.io. Everyone write this down. This is a website that's literally just clips of quotes from movies and TV shows. And you can
Cool.
search by typing in whatever you want, and it will generate movie and TV show quotes based on whatever you search for.
Really? Holy
Yes.
shit.
This is the secret.
Is that
this is
how
the secret.
Is that how you found the She-Hulk Archer?
Well, I have like a million Archer clips from like 2 years ago. I already saved them.
That was fucking impressive. I was like, oh
Yes.
my god, Archer.
Archer talks about she. No, that was an accident. I was looking for a different Archer clip, and I had in my montage of Archer clips that just was there. And I said, "Oh shit!"
Was
Perfect.
it yarn.com? You said
It's
What is-
Get Yarn, getyarn.io.
get yarn.
So if you're looking for like soundboard stuff or anything, perfect.
Coolio. Well, any more? We have a bunch of super chats, Kurt. So I'm gonna,
Neotsu for $5 says humans evolve sociopaths because they're not susceptible to cult or peer pressure that leads to the detriment of the tribe by incompetence.
interesting. Yeah. I could buy that.
I don't know if I'd buy it.
Well-
I think you can have like fuck ups and mistakes that like nature didn't select for, but that come about because it's attached to some other property that makes it beneficial, or just attached to some property that has a random outcome of producing, a sociopath. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're saying it's a fuck up, but it's not necessarily an adaptation.
Yeah, like you can have something like sociopathic tendencies that has there's like a, I don't know, say there's like a 1% chance based on our biology to produce a sociopath. But in order for that to be selected out by nature, something worse would have to like happen. Like if you got rid of that 1% chance, like maybe it would harm us in some other way by selecting away from that.
Yeah.
So,
The genes also could be paired up with other useful genes. So they're,
yes.
yeah, there's a lot of,
Right,
obviously
exactly.
accidental shit that happens.
Right. Soldoge, lead aesthetic planner for Biden for $2 says, ask him the questions. What question did you want me to ask him, Soldoge? Oh, the questions, of course. Kurt, are you ready for the 3 questions?
3 questions.
Yes. Do you believe that you could defeat a horse-sized duck in a fight?
A horse-sized duck?
Yes.
In a fight, just like a fist fight. Do I have a gun? Do I have?
You
a
have no
chainsaw?
weapons.
Okay, probably not.
Okay, you'll get defeated by the horse-sized duck.
Yes.
A realist. I like it.
Okay,
Sitch thinks he could win.
Because I'm based, okay? I don't know what to tell you.
Casey, you're delusional. That's the opposite of base.
My metaphorical truth will lead me to victory, while you will be led to failure by your fear.
It's going to be
cowardice,
exactly
okay?
like the troll scene in
I mean,
Rings
how
of Power, right? That's
No.
Sitch. Sitch is going to be
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I'm gonna
"Whoa!"
have Adam is gonna hold out his sword, and I'm gonna backflip off of it and stab the duck in the head.
Yeah.
I mean, how strong is their beak? Like, because I'd imagine they just immediately grab me and then fly me to a bottle of water, then just drown me in the water.
I don't.
until I
Are
stop
ducks
moving.
smart enough to like do that?
Yeah, a duck would grab you and then fly up in the air and just drop you.
I don't
from-
think ducks do that.
this duck would.
No, like I know there's certain eagles that do that, but I don't. I've never seen. I've never heard of a duck grabbing something, flying in the air, and then dropping it or drowning it.
Its
I don't know if that's
brain
the
would be
behavior
so
they
much
engage in.
bigger, though. This duck would
That's
be
not
so
how it works,
smart.
Adam. You understand? You understand? If you upscaled a duck, it wouldn't be super smart, right?
No, it would be.
You know how dinosaurs were super intelligent and they built rocket ships to escape the meteor that was coming for them?
Maybe. Some alternative
Okay.
timeline.
Okay, well, anyway, the second question is, Kurt, are owls birds?
I think so. What else would they be?
That's your
Well,
answer?
you're-
I think so.
You
What
think
else
so?
would
Is that
they
your
be?
Yeah.
answer?
I've
You're
never,
not gonna take a
I'll-
stronger stance.
never done the deep dive on owls. I've always assumed they're birds.
Mhm.
It's a weird
I
question.
think so. What else?
It's not like
would they
it's
be?
not like a bat where it's like technically a rodent, but it can fly, right?
You mean a bat? Yeah, bat's a mammal, so it's a
Yeah.
rodent. Yeah, right.
Yeah, birds
You're-
owls are birds.
You're
yeah.
confident that the gold standard would be good for the economy, but you're not so confident that owls are birds. Okay. Good to know.
I wasn't expecting that question. All right.
We're just having fun, Kurt. I'm just
I
joking
know.
around, obviously.
Yes.
Owls are indeed birds. Yes. You've
All right.
answered correctly.
You've correct. Yes, good job. Yes, there was an episode of Voyager where dinosaurs were super intelligent and had rocket ships.
Dinosaurs are also birds. Okay.
True.
Yeah.
Or well, they became birds.
That's more of a trick question, but
Right. Okay, the last question is, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to.
yes.
This is a question that involves pornographic consumption. Okay.
Mhm.
When you, or I should say if you watch porn, okay, do you watch it as if you're like a person watching two people engaged in some, or three or four, or however many ever people engaged in a sex act? Like you are just watching these people do this, or do you envision yourself as a participant in the sex act?
Well, long ago, I would say both.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So
Wow, what a renegade!
So you
Yeah.
alternate?
You alternate.
not anymore, but
Mm.
What do you do now?
uh, you said I didn't have to answer that
If
question.
you don't want to, okay, fine. There you go.
Don't say
Okay.
anything.
Okay, so you
That's
used to do
okay.
both, and now it's a mystery what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. There you go. I think you're the first person to say that. Everyone else has given a clear one way or the other. Interesting.
All right. Do you have any uncomfortable closing questions for us, Kirk?
What are your guys' thoughts on Space Jam?
Which
the
one?
movie Space Jam?
Yeah, what else would I be talking about?
Yeah, is there another Space Jam?
Oh yeah, there was a second one.
I thought maybe, there's
Is there like a jam that was released that you put on peanut butter that's
Yeah.
from space?
Yeah, it's meant to go to the moon. It's meant to be consumed on the moon.
I think when I first saw Space Jam #1,
Mhm.
I loved it as a kid. I remember watching it somewhat recently in Discord with some people when the second one came out, and it was significantly worse than I remember. The first one
It doesn't hold up.
does not hold up. No. I mean, it's like it's a little kids movie, right? You see it again, you're like, oh, this is like a movie for tiny babies. But then the second one is just horrible. The second one is just really bad. So first one is like a decent kid movie, but I don't like it as an adult. Second one is just bad all around bad.
All right. I've never seen the movie, so that's my response.
The fuck have you never seen Space Jam?
I knew that
Never
always
Space
happens.
Jam, never Better Call Saul.
I know, jeez.
Yeah, I mean,
Get cultured at.
I like good movies.
What is your Space Jam take?
What is my
You have-
Space
do
Jam?
you have a
take?
Is it
contentious
great?
Space Jam?
Should I see it?
I'm not sure if it still holds up for adults. It's a fun movie to watch.
Cool.
The music still holds up. I still rock out to the song.
Kurt's
Still
a
some
big
funny
Space Jam.
moments.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Okay.
awesome.
Okay.
I think I saw someone in the chat earlier said that my ideology or philosophy sounds like the movie RoboCop. And I want to clarify some things about that. No, because in RoboCop, yeah, the police force does eventually become a little too privatized. The city is almost getting taken over by a Japanese corporation. That movie's a classic, by the way. I think RoboCop still holds up.
Yeah, it's
but,
great. No, RoboCop's great.
But no, I
RoboCop
don't
is
think
fantastic. Yeah.
the police department should not be run by giant corporations.
Oh, good.
Ask Kurt about choice of background. I see you have a Donkey Kong. Is he shitting on a Pokemon?
Well, this is a screenshot from Super Smash Brothers Brawl on the
Yes.
Nintendo Wii.
Looks
What
like
it
he's kicking
looks
a Jigglypuff or
It
something.
looks like if you look, let me bend down for a second. It looks like Donkey Kong is getting oral sex performed on him by Jigglypuff.
Okay.
Now, that's not what's going on, because I don't know if you guys have ever played Smash Brothers on the Wii, but it is a family-friendly game, which is why I
Yes.
think this is so funny, because it looks like it, but it's definitely not. You cannot make the characters in Smash Brothers perform oral sex on each other.
Mm,
I know, because I've tried many times.
okay. Well, through the magic of the internet, I'm sure you can find video of Jigglypuff performing oral sex on Donkey Kong somewhere.
Now, if you watch that and you happen to, do you picture yourself as Donkey Kong, or do you watch it as Jigglypuff and Donkey Kong and get your
I
rocks
would
off?
kind of take the Donkey Kong POV there. It looks like
I
It's
would
like-
I would see that picture and I would click away from it because I don't want to envision myself as any participant in the Donkey Kong Jigglypuff sex situation.
I mean, it doesn't seem that bad.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Adam is in favor of Donkey Kong Jigglypuff sex.
Speaking of video games, someone's asking me what does Kirk think about Andrew Ryan from BioShock. It's funny, I'm still in the middle of playing that game, and I've been doing Twitch streams while playing it. The thing is I'm so invested in like getting to the next level that I'm not paying enough attention to like what's being said.
Right.
There's some things I disagree. I think Andrew Ryan, is misrepresented Rand, because if you guys don't know, the bad guys in BioShock are a misrepresentation. They're supposed to be a representation of like Rand's philosophy. I think they're a misrepresentation. I think it's clear early on when Andrew Ryan says, he doesn't believe in morality. That's not what Ayn Rand's take on morality was, but very fun game and aesthetically pleasing. I'm enjoying the game, even though I disagree with how Rand's philosophy is presented.
I think Andrew Ryan is the perfect encapsulation of Ayn Rand and her philosophy, and you're wrong.
Oh.
And BioShock is the perfect thesis statement for why objectivism will fail.
All right.
But no, it's a great game. And where are you? And you're playing it. You're just playing it for the first time now?
I started months ago, and I've mostly had it to excluded it to when I go on Twitch. But the other day, I sort of cheated and played ahead, and now I'm at the first point where you're supposed to kill Andrew Ryan. That's where I left off.
First point where.
Yeah, I just got past the scene where you build the bomb and whatnot, and then you release the lava, and then the next.
Oh my god, it's been so long since I played this game. You're not at the scene where he has the golf club, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Did you get to the part where Andrew Ryan burns down his own trees? I
don't think so. I remember there was a stage with like a bunch of trees, but I don't remember it all getting burned down.
Oh, okay. There's a part like he quotes from. They do that quote from like I don't know which Ayn Rand book it is, where the guy like burns down his own orchard or something before he lets someone else have it.
Someone says Kirk's the kind of guy who kills every little girl in BioShock. False. I have video evidence to show that I save every one of them.
There you go. Based. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Kirk.
I got a little too passionate about it. Thanks for having me on, guys. It was a lot of fun.
We'll have to do it again.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Take care, man.
Take care. Yeah. Oh wait, I should have checked to see.
So are we not live anymore?
Well,
no,
we're gonna still
be live.
Superchats.
Oh, okay.
From
my
Sunday.
Oh, so you guys are just giving me the boot. I thought the show was over.
We're basically.
Well, actually, let me see before you go. Let me make sure there's no Streamlabs that are pointed towards you.
Yeah, we have a bunch of super chats to read.
Soldoge gave a bunch of Streamlabs.
See, now people are going to be talking shit about me in the super chats after I leave.
No, they
there
won't.
You go. Soldoge for $1, 2, 3, 4, $5. I mean, he gave like a shit ton of comments. I'm gonna read them all at once. It says, Adam, I don't get why people call me a status. Also, Adam, 5 minutes later, I don't see there being any possible way for there to be a free market solution. The only way forward is government. Gee, I wonder why people get the wrong idea of you, Adam.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not really aimed at Kirk, but
how are we defining statist?
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, status. I thought status meant someone who basically saying the state should have centralized authority over like everything, not saying like, well, we need government regulation.
Well, that's what they call it though. If you don't think everything can be privatized, you're a statist.
Yeah, a lot of people do use it as kind of like an empty smear. I would probably define a statist as someone who thinks that the state should reign supreme. Obviously, that varies to degrees depending on the ideology and the politician looking to apply it. But
of course, right. Hey, wait a minute. State reigns supreme. A-team reigns supreme. Adam is a statist. Oh, my God.
Simon keeps talking shit in the chat, man. Simon, why don't you come on sometime?
Who's Simon?
Simon keeps saying, no, Kirk was great. He understands economics 1,000 times better than Adam.
Well, there you go.
1,000 times?
1,000
come
times. Soldoge also says, Sitch, the other factor the government causing the problem with insulin is how they are guaranteed protection under excessive IP protection. Only select few are legally allowed to make insulin due to over patents, so no competition is allowed to undercut them. Interesting. I thought generally people on the sort of more libertarian neoliberal side are in favor of strong IP protection, though.
Actually, that's a big disagreement I noticed from a lot of libertarians. A lot of libertarians are hardcore anti-intellectual property protection.
Interesting. Okay.
Wow.
Solodoj also says, since we're talking about healthcare today in Clown World, the Canadian VA came under fire because one of its workers suggested to a veteran that the best way to treat PTSD was through medical suicide. What the fuck?
Yeah, I saw headlines about that too. Yeah.
I didn't see anything about this because Canadian law allows mental illness as a sole qualifier. Wow. Dark. Okay. For medical suicide, because the best thing to tell people with mental illness, and the best part, the VA agent told that he got another soldier to off themselves, and they even provided mental health care to the kids after the dad took his life. What the fuck is this story? Holy shit. I gotta look at what the hell's going on with Canada. Fuck.
I will say, I go into great detail on this on my video, how the FDA saved Americans from affordable drugs, where I go deep in the history on the FDA and all the regulations that have come about since its inception. But I am pro intellectual property, but the state of intellectual property in medicine is in dire need of reform and clarity.
Okay. Soul Doge from Nadal says, to test your idea of morality being only how we interact with a group of people, couldn't someone behave morally on an island based on something such as eating kosher, i.e. how a person collects or prepares the food considered moral without interacting with others? So I actually thought of that not the exact example, but I thought of that example. And the thing is, if you believe in God, you're never alone because God's always watching. So no, my definition of morality still takes place. It's how you interact with other people. If you don't believe in God
and other
you're living
gods
alone on an island, then there's no moral questions that are going to face. I mean, you can have moral questions about how you view animals because you feel like you should be empathetic to animals, but then again, you're just elevating animals to be on a moral plane with yourself as a human. So anyway, so that's it. We're going to read the rest of Super Chats from Sunday. Thanks for coming on, Kurt.
All right, later, guys. And thanks everyone for watching today.
Yeah. Check out his channel. Subscribe, guys. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Girl Sarah for $5 says, Sitch, you have TDS, but 95% of the time you come with straight facts against the greatest president of our time. That being said, I'll still call you TDS Sitch, because of peer pressure. Well, I guess thank you, Goro.
Is the peer pressure that bad, guys? I mean, why?
He's saying that he's under peer pressure. They call me TDS Sitch
from
other Trumpkins.
Don't let the MAGA Republicans win, okay?
That's right. There you go, Goro. You have to fight it. You have to use your free will, okay? Hold back.
MAGA Republicans are welcome in our chat. I don't see them as an existential threat to society, no matter how hard Dark Brandon wants to sell that point of view. But don't let them peer pressure you into calling Sitch TDS. Sitch doesn't have TDS. Sitch completely articulates his disdain for Trump through rational means.
Thank you.
Obviously.
True.
I've never heard TDS Harris make any rational arguments.
I've never said that Donald Trump was a better person than Osama bin Laden, okay?
Yeah. And also, I mean, Trump University, it's like, it is...
That was a weird example, yeah.
It is lame and weird and stuff, but it's not exactly World War III.
Right. There's some art.
Is Trump University worse than Olivia Wilde throwing her 2 kids and husband under the bus for some
yes, it is worse because
brainlet?
It's just worse than the numbers. I mean, you're scamming. Trump University is scamming more people than Olivia Wilde is harming her children.
Ooh, but it's her kids. I don't know.
I think the numbers. You have to factor the numbers in.
Okay.
I'm sure that there's someone out there, Adam, that spent their money on Trump University instead of feeding their children. Okay.
Really?
I'm sure kids went hungry somewhere because of Trump University.
What is this? Sammy G did a video here. I'm still in disbelief. PSA Sitch posted a new video on his channel over the weekend. I brought it up. We could do a 3, 2, 1.
Okay, let me bring it up.
A rift has been created in reality.
Natural order disturbed. As a result, we can now peer into an alternate timeline in the PSA Sitch multiverse.
Really?
So there you go. Sammy is in such disbelief that I actually made a video that she thinks this is some sort of alternate dimension.
What's going on here? It looks like she took me doing AOC and put hair on, which is. I mean,
Well, we'll see. Tell me when you're ready to.
That's kind of. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of sexy.
Tell me. Oh wow, Adam is attracted to himself.
Hold
What
on,
a narcissist.
I want to make it. I want to blow it up a little bit here.
Okay, tell me when you're ready. I got it all. I got it up. I got it up,
ready.
Adam.
I'm almost ready.
Oh, you better get ready.
I just
boy.
want to make it nice and big for you.
Yeah, thank you. Woo. Make it nice and big for me.
Watch out, not gay Ben is going to hear this. This might make him question his sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got it up. Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go.
You ever get the feeling something really bad is about to happen?
What have we done?
You fools! You've messed with the natural order!
Reality is falling apart!
What's gonna happen to us?
I don't know, but I'm gonna hold you tight and never let go.
I love you, Grim!
What about me, yo?
You'll be fine.
Did we just throw Doomer under the bus?
Yes. Oh my god. Oh, you're 2001ing it.
I love it.
This is amazing.
Oh, look. What happened?
そのやがるピアセスチちゃん。ここに別の日曜日の書があります。私に配らるのはみんなのお気に入りのセクシー言ってねママです。
あらあら、皆さん元気ですか？あ、今日はゲストがいますか？
空は正しい。そして今日も私たちに配られているもドゥマちゃんです。
スッチュちゃん。私は嫌いです。
ドゥマちゃん、私も愛している。そんなツンデレ、可愛いですよ。
くそ。ねえねえ、スッチュちゃん。私たちは今日何を見ていますか？
いつもと同じバカなことを言うだから。
Idiots saying stupid things.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Legend says the more PSA Sitch. Let me pause it for a second. Legend says the more PSA Sitch uploads videos on his main channel, the more alternate timelines are added to the PSA Sitch multiverse.
Oh my god, does she know what she's getting herself into here?
Sammy G says, let's try something in the Sitch Chan's voice. Let's play again.
Do
Okay.
this.
S クラスは最高のクラスです。
There you go. We got S class is best class in Japanese. Thank you, Sam. This was amazing. This is an amazing
Wow,
video.
That's incredible.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Yes.
Look at that, the 2001 stuff.
Yes. Oh my God.
Making fun of Doomer.
I mean, perfect. So what happens, Adam?
Mhm.
If anyone who's confused, basically, me uploading a video so reality-shatteringly bizarre
Mhm.
that it opened a wormhole to another dimension where we're both Japanese VTubers.
I like it. But didn't she say every video is going to create another dimension?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So there you go.
I mean,
Thank you, Sam. This is amazing.
I don't know what Sammy's gotten herself into, but I mean, we're working on another video right now, right? I mean,
That's right. We are. Yeah.
another hole in reality could be created this.
That's true.
Yeah, this week.
It's gonna be like Loki. I'm gonna destroy the Sitch and Adam, the consistency, the Sitch and Adam multiverse.
It's great. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. S class is. I can't even say it. I have to go back and figure out how to say S class is best class in Japanese.
Mhm.
The fucking Sitch Chan voice was killing me so much.
Sweet. No, I like it.
I'd cosplay Sitch Chan. Yeah, if you cosplay Sitch Chan, everyone would think you're doing blackface.
That's true. That's true. Very dangerous.
It would be very dangerous. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sammy. That was amazing.
I did notice the ridiculous looking elf character in She-Hulk.
の日曜日の書があります。私に
The grandma.
配るのはみんな
I
Sorry
hear
about
you
that.
listening to it again.
I know it popped on again. I better close it. Notice they gave her big elf ears to make her look ugly. They were like, look at this. We want to make her look ridiculous.
Oh
So-
my god, Adam.
It's true. You caught that, didn't you?
They didn't do it to make her look ugly. They did it because she was an elf, so they gave her elf ears.
Right, to make her look hideous.
Okay. And she looked hideous because she was an unattractive old woman.
With big pointy ears.
Wow. So if she didn't have the pointy ears, you would have been like totally down to hit that gilf? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
of course not.
Yeah. I think you would.
The
You heard it here
ears
first,
just-
folks. Adam said if it wasn't for the pointy ears, he would have banged the old lady from She-Hulk.
I'm married, so I couldn't, but
Yeah, in your mind. Okay. Are
Super
we going to do a
chats.
House of Dragons video? That's a good question. I want to do a Ring of Powers video first. Maybe do a House of Dragons. I don't know how much I have to say about Ring of Dragon. Or Ring of Dragon, whatever it's called. House of Dragon.
I mean,
Do people, what's the over under on House of Dragon? I feel like people, I can't tell if people like it or not. What's the word, chat? People like House of Dragon? I'm
a
kind
lot of
of,
people are watching it.
I'm kind of lukewarm on it so far.
Well, you
But-
have all the backstory on Game of Thrones, and I know
Mhm.
nothing. All I know about Game of Thrones, I know from watching PSA Sitch videos. So I sent you a.
Mahler likes it? Interesting.
Wow.
I wouldn't have suspected that.
Did you tell everyone about Short Fat Otaku throwing you under the bus? Dev basically told Mahler that you were crazy.
We'll
for-
talk about where I'm going to hold Dev's to the feet to the fire here because apparently Dev
Mhm,
told some horrible lies to Mahler that I thought Ring of Power was good.
mhm.
And then Mahler repeated this on stream. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? And I was like DMing Mahler, like, who the fuck's telling you this shit? And I went back. It's so funny. I went back and I actually started to reply to. I literally only replied to comments on last Tuesday because I went back to hear exactly what I said at the end of the stream about Ring of Power, and then I saw some stupid people putting some stupid comments. You know who you are. And I was like, this is what I said. I said, I don't love it. I don't even like it. And somehow that got translated to Sitch said it's good. So I don't know.
I don't
understand
love
what
it. I
Dev's-
don't even like it.
Yeah, I
mean,
don't. I said I
that's-
don't love it. I don't even like it. And somehow Dev translates that into Sitch thought Ring of Power was good. So
Yeah.
so we're gonna beat up on Dev tomorrow. He comes on about that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk Ring of Power.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Anyway,
great.
there's some CT artwork, I believe. And there's also there's a bunch of artwork actually. CT's got together.
So I saw this tweet floating around that the House of the Dragon got 4.8 million views and
Mm-hmm.
Ring of Power only got 1.8 million views, which
Yeah.
is a solid 3 million more for Game of Thrones.
That's not. But here's the thing. Well, first of all, Ring of Power. I mean, House of Dragon is better than Ring of Power right now.
Okay.
Definitely, I definitely will say that. But also, I think it has more of a market like share built into it. I don't know what Amazon Prime's viewership is compared to HBO Max, anyway. And Game of Thrones is still like, I feel like Game of Thrones is a much like recenter in people's minds property than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is like 20 years ago.
Right. And The Hobbit sucked. So, I mean, I guess the end of Game of Thrones sucked, but I could like sort of just naturally understand why people would be more drawn to watch House of the Dragon over Ring of Power, even if Ring of Power was good.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, anything with dragon in it, I'll check that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says dragon right in it.
It's got dragons in it now.
Dragons are cool. I'm digging it.
Did people like? There's a part in the last episode I was curious if Maul or anyone's gonna call it out for it. It's like this really stupid part where, Damon's in this big war with these pirates that keep hiding in the cave, and they can't defeat the pirates with the dragon because they just hide in this cave, and the dragon, I guess, can't shoot fire in deep enough to kill them or something. I don't know why they wouldn't just collapse the cave and then starve them out, or just have them die. I don't understand. The logistics of that situation make no sense to me. But so anyway, Damon's brother, the king, is going to send reinforcements to help him. And since Damon is a piece of shit and he's very prideful, he decides he's going to go on some sort of like insane suicide mission to end the war himself. And it's like the dumbest crap ever. He's like running in the field. He's like single-handedly like John Wick killing dozens and dozens of people while like there's all these archers shooting at him and no one can fucking hit him until the very end. And of course they don't kill him. They just like barely wound him. It's just the whole thing was just so dumb. So dumb to me.
And that's in House of Dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, suddenly
it
it becomes fucking John Wick and Damon's like the most, competent fucking person on the planet.
How many episodes are there out?
There's 3 so far.
Okay. Thursday is the new Ring of Power.
Wouldn't the fire suck all the air? Like, yeah, that's a good question. Could the dragon? Well,
yeah, burn up all the oxygen.
Could he just stand at the entrance blowing fire and then they would die? I don't know. I guess it depends how big the caves are. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much about that situation that's not explained that I don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. But Chadversity stated that the arrows missing is not that far-fetched. I don't buy that. even if that's like realistic, I still don't buy it because it seems preposterous. There's like 100 fucking people. There's 100 people on a higher elevation on a mountain shooting down at one guy, and no one can fucking hit him. And he's just running in a straight line mostly. He's not like doing anything crazy. It's just, I don't know. The whole thing seems preposterous to me. So that's not how Dragon Breath works. I mean, Dragon Breath can't melt steel beams. It's a hero character, Sitch, but he's not. Damon's like the villain. I think that's the biggest problem with House of Dragon is that in Game of Thrones, you had very clear protagonists to root for. You had the Starks, you had Tyrion, you had Daenerys. So you had these characters that you liked and that you were rooting for. In House of Dragon, everyone kind of sucks. And so there's no one for the audience to really be like, this is who I want to win. Because you're like, well, I don't really care. I mean, there's one guy you don't want to win, but everyone else you're just kind of like lukewarm on.
Yeah, I have trouble rooting for characters that do really dumb shit. I'm rooting for them to actually die. I'm like, someone this stupid should really step out of the gene pool. Which is not good. I mean, you're supposed to want the protagonist to achieve their goal, right? If you're rooting for them to just die, you've kind of been taken out of the story a bit.
In terms of accuracy, it's not hard to believe most would miss him. Shad said it would come down to volume and RNG, and they said it was fine because he did eventually get hit by a couple. Listen, I'm super skeptical if that scene happened in Ring of Power with Galadriel, that everyone wouldn't be complaining about it. Okay. Everyone would be complaining about that scene if Galadriel was like just running through a field of like 1,000 orc arrows and no one's hitting her and she's just cutting all the orcs in half. So
I guess we're going to Super Chats tomorrow then. We got like 5 minutes left, so.
Oh, sorry. I guess we can do Super Chats tomorrow, yeah. Well, let me just try to finish off the ones from today. Do Sunday tomorrow. Goro Cero, Solo Doge for $1 says, missed part of the stream, so I'm just going to assume that Adam, my most absolute favorite host ever, who I never would insult and always understands when I joke, made the guests cry during the parts that I missed.
Oh. No. Kirk was a champ the whole time, so.
That's right. There was no... Yeah, I guess we'll do art tomorrow, too, because we're not going to have time. Vile Van Gogh, thanks so much for joining the Free Will Seekers. Metalworks 41190 for $2 says late and gay as usual. I see, as usual. Brain for $2 says how much money to get Sitch to show his ban list live. It's funny, you know, Adam like unbans everyone. First of all, I do very little banning, but Adam unbans everyone that he bans. I think every couple months or so.
Yeah, I ban people for just saying repetitive dumb shit. Because
yes,
as the person responsible for reading all the comments, it's just kind of like a pragmatic thing. I don't want to read dumb shit week after week after week. So sometimes I ban people, and then I take mercy on them and I unban everyone.
Right, except for the bots, obviously.
Well, no, the bots end up getting unbanned too. Because
okay, well that's the problem.
I'm not gonna listen. I'm not. There's like an unban everyone button. And
so it's your fault that we get all the sex bots back.
Yeah, I mean occasionally.
Oh my god, I didn't realize this. It was Adam's
well, there
fault,
is.
guys.
You can't go through and like unban people one at a time.
Yeah, you can. What do you mean?
Well, it's just too much work. I mean,
okay.
You just
okay, so you
like,
can, just don't want to.
Well, there's like, first of all, in there, like 99% of the bannings is the sex bots. It's
I
like
know, but that's what I mean.
Hundreds of sex bots just fucking.
He's just bringing back all the sex bots. Jeez.
And finding the people within the like hundreds of sex bots is a lot of work. It's easier just to go unban everyone.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Brain for Nutty says, should we expect more academic Sitch bans? So here's my rules for banning. I ban for A, if you're lying. If you're lying, I will ban you. That includes lying about me or Adam.
Yeah.
You can lie about Adam
I've banned some people for lying about you, Sitch, definitely.
Yes, I appreciate
And
it.
I've banned some people for just being like racist pieces of shit.
Right.
So.
Yeah. If you're saying super racist shit, putting slurs, obviously you're gonna get banned for that.
Yeah.
I will ban people for spamming shit repeatedly because it's just annoying. And I'll also ban people, third thing, people who continually make stupid comments that are vague in general and refuse to like engage in any way that means anything or actually explain what the fuck they're talking about. So basically, if I read your comment and my IQ drops because of your stupidity, I will. This is good. There's a chance I'll ban you.
Currently, I don't think anyone is
bad
banned.
ideas.
To be honest with you, right now, I haven't banned anyone.
I banned a couple people on Sunday. So.
Okay. Well, I went through an unbanned.
Brain's got his panties in a twist because Brain has terminally wants to blow Donald Trump, and so if you ever say anything bad about Donald Trump, Brain loses his brain and he becomes very triggered.
Well, Brain will never get banned because if he does, all he has to do is message me and I'll unban him. So. Brain is definitely safe from banning. I honestly, I don't think anyone, like I haven't banned anyone in forever. So
okay. DH Evil for 20 pounds says, "Oh boy, new episode of my favorite show, Adam and Stitch." Thank you. For the $20. Gohi Mag, thanks so much for joining Free Will Seeker. Clyde, thanks so much for being Free Will Seeker for 2 months. Says PSA Sitch uploaded a video. S Class returns to best class. At least until Doomer does another video. Well, we'll see when that ever comes.
Hopefully soon. I mean, I want to see a Doomer video.
Gohi Mag, thanks so much for being Free Will Seeker for 2 months. Says apparently I was a member without knowing it. Thanks, Daddy J, and congrats to you guys on being my one and only membership. Well, that's awesome. Thank you.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Stick with it. You have to renew. Remember, you don't want to disrespect Daddy J.
Right. Yeah, we do have we have a Brain and we have a Brian.
I know.
And I know it gets confusing. So, Nova Leon for $5 says on her podcast, Michaela Peterson FaceTimed her dad and told him about the movie, and he laughed. Well, that's good. Christian Baller, thanks so much for $10. Says, Sitch, have you looked into jiu-jitsu gyms yet? Me and Cyborg will not stop pestering you until you try a class. Then me and Cyborg can teach you how to bury him below Adam and choke him unconscious. I haven't. I did try to do jiu-jitsu years ago. And it was for some reason I don't know where I haven't checked, so it's been like 5, 6, 7 years, so maybe it's different. I know when I checked like 5 to 10 years ago, I couldn't find a pure jujitsu class anywhere, and I only found some sort of like mixed martial arts class that totally sucked ass. And I went to one lesson. I was like, this is garbage, and I left. So I'll check again. Harold, hey, thanks so much for being a Discipline Equals Freedom for 6 months. That's amazing. Amazing. Says here for my monthly units of free will and to use it to say that A-Team reigns supreme with no caveats. Wow. Terrible. Texas SP12 for $5 says, Adam, the democracy versus republic name debate is not because of names. I've never heard anyone use it for that reason. I don't understand why anyone talked about it for any reason, except people make weird arguments about like getting rid of the electoral college or something related to it. The whole thing seems stupid to me, but.
Okay.
Texas SP what?
Okay.
Texas SP12 for $5 says Christians being pro-death. That's just so wrong. Yeah, some people got triggered when Kurt said that.
We'll have to invite him back on and have the drop dead debate over, because he might be like an anti-theist. So.
Sammy G says, I don't like jujitsu. It's good to know I don't like it as a style. Wow, Sammy G doesn't like jujitsu. Wow, Sammy. Wow.
Very anti-Semitic.
I know. Wow, can't believe it. Can't believe it, Sammy. Jenna's cute. Thank you so much for being a free will seeker. Oh no, I read that one. Very Dead Horse, thanks so much for being a free will seeker for 2 months. Says you have to watch episode 3 of She-Hulk. Animation quality halves. I'll continue to cringe watch. Anyways, great video. S-Class is best class until Adam makes a video. I mean, I guess Adam kind of counts because he helped with the video. But
yeah, and we're working together on videos. So
right.
I mean, technically,
it's a group, it's a team effort. But we did. We're working on the next video on it. It'll hopefully come out this week. It's on episode 2 and 3. Well, you never know, right?
No, it's going to be out this week.
Okay.
Sitch is recording audio today, so
yeah, I'm going to be recording after this. I'm going to be recording audio for it. It's on episode 2 and 3, and yes, I couldn't believe it. And Adam talked about, Adam wrote about this in his script that he sent me. The animation quality in episode 3 is so bad. It's so shockingly bad. Like, it's weird.
I wrote some jokes that were like, the animation is worse than some video games Sitch will know about.
Adam literally wrote, the animation quality is worse than parentheses, insert like video game reference that Sitch knows.
That joke is gonna hit. Get ready for that joke.
There you go. I should have just read that straight. That would be the thing is that would be funny to like this audience. I don't know if like the people that are watching the She-Hulk video would understand what the fuck I'm talking about.
They would totally be like, "What?"
Right. Maybe I'll do that just for the.
No, don't do it. Come on. Give us a joke. Give us an amazing joke. Come on.
Okay. I did add the joke.
Nice.
Like, Sitch, can you finish the Watchmen videos? Well, not the TV show. I'll never finish the TV show videos. I'll eventually get around to finishing my Watchmen comic video, which is like 50% done. Stug for $2 says, I liked Kirk until he said he didn't care about Lord of the Rings. Solo Doge, lead aesthetic planner for Biden for $2 says, that was obviously a joke. There's no joke, Solo Doge. Everyone gets asked the questions, okay? Everyone, except if we ever talk to Jordan Peterson, I will not ask Jordan Peterson the fucking questions. So don't ask.
We have to. The porn question is, it's not fair to people. So, I mean, we probably shouldn't ask it.
I don't know. We got a great answer from Dr. Hans.
I know, but you put people, like the people who don't want to answer do not want to say, oh, I don't want to answer. So it's this weird double bind thing where. But that's what makes it. Listen,
we've literally only had one person refuse to answer, and it was one person you never would have expected. We had fucking Jesse Signal answer the question.
It's sometimes it works out. The owl was particularly funny this time. I mean,
the only person who didn't answer the question was Matt Binder.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Everyone else answered it, including Lance. I forget. I'm trying to remember. Lance's answer was No, Lance said something, and then I
thought
think
Matt did
said,
answer.
no, because Matt didn't answer. Lance answered, and then Matt mocked Lance's answer, and it was
Right.
hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
Right. I don't remember what was said. I just remember laughing, dying of laughter. But Andrew Clark for 2 hours says, schedule the Fight Club stream. Adam, schedule the Fight Club stream with Rags, Mahler, and Fringy.
I have some leverage over Mahler now because I stayed on the 2 hour, his 200th episode for like 10 hours. So
Right.
I definitely have he owes us. So.
Oh, right. So Lance said Matt said something about Lance imagining himself as the stepsister. That's right.
Should we do a Fight Club video? I kind of feel like we should, like a main channel video.
Yeah, we could. Well, what we'll do, and like probably what the plan will be, is like once I can get a better schedule for these videos, like the weekly Hulk, Lords of Rings videos, is to in between those work on other stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like Fight Club,
Right.
Be nice to do like a
Fight Club.
Matrix.
I want to do a Fight Club video. I've been wanting to do a Far Cry video forever. I've been wanting to do a Final Fantasy VII video forever.
I don't know how much help I can be on any.
You're
of
not going to
those,
be any
so,
help on all
yeah,
those. Well, I mean,
that's
I'll give
cool.
you the script and tell you if they sound like
Sure,
coherent.
give me the script. I'll add some jokes.
Right. Yeah, but so yeah, there's lots of things we could do. And also there's going to be a time period when there's no like new show coming out constantly for everyone to talk about anyway.
I don't know that that's the case. I mean, I feel like there's always something.
We'll see. We'll see. Vincent Martin, thanks so much for being a Frugal Seeker for 2 months. Says, I need to record audio also for a review of Critical Drinker's new book. Thanks for the reminder, Sitch. Well, there you go.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad to see. I was thinking of reading Critical Drinker's new book. Does he have an audio book? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'll check it out though.
Well,
think he
anyway, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys.
Thank
So we're
you.
just-
Are you going to do harmonica or no?
I don't think so. Like,
Oh, wow. Listen.
Well, I
harmonica.
feel like we should reserve it for the Sunday stream.
Okay. Okay.
We're gonna come back tomorrow and talk about Rings of Power with Dev. And
Yes.
I'm gonna hold Dev while Sitch slaps him in the face with his glove for talking smack about him on stream. So
Yep.
That's-
Yeah. So tomorrow we'll talk to Deb about that. We'll also show the art tomorrow and read the super chats we missed on Sunday or from Sunday. So
all right. Bye bye.
take care.